Tim running late.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you could, if you're sitting out here, if there's any seats, if you could slide in, let some folks go. As soon as each agenda item is finished, if you want to go, if that was the one that you were coming from, we won't be offended if you leave, and that'll clear up a little bit of room. We're going to go ahead and start with our regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. Commissioner Martin is running just a few minutes behind, but he will be here shortly, and we'll make sure we get him in. So I'll begin with a motion to approve the agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor to approve the agenda as it was published? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Stephen Wilson from First Baptist Church of Newberry. If he'll come and give the invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, it will follow directly.
Let us pray. Dear most gracious Heavenly Father, we know you are a God that is sovereign over all things, from the highest of heights to the depths of the sea. Your hand is in and through all things, and that includes even a meeting here in our small town of Newberry. And I pray, Lord, that the matters that are conducted here are conducted with grace, with love, with a firm grasp on the truth, with selflessness, and Lord, to what we do is to promote your glory. And it is for your honor and it is for your name. That we remember that as we serve and discuss the matters that involve our city, that we do so with utmost humility. That we do so grounded firmly in the truth. And that, Lord, you are magnified. And so I pray, Lord, that you're with every person who speaks here tonight. That you're with all the commissioners as they deliberate and vote and make decisions, and that, Lord, your name is truly uplifted in our actions and our conduct and our words and our speech. And so, Lord, we thank you for all the blessings we have. We thank you, Lord, that we have citizens who will turn out and be a part of these meetings and be a part of this active process. And we pray, Lord, that everything that is done here is a reflection of your holiness and righteousness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Commissioner Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Wilson. All right. We have a couple of items under presentations. We want to start with the Recognizing Municipal Clerks Week. We wanted to do it last week, but our clerk was out, so we waited so you could actually be here to read the proclamation to you, and I will do that now. The clerk is the hub of government, the direct link between the inhabitants of their community and their government, whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk, now therefore I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do recognize the week of April 30th through May 6, 2023 as the Municipal Clerks Week, and I further extend appreciation to our city clerk, Ms. Judy S. Rice, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 24th day of April 2023.
Yeah.
You see, our clerk does a lot for us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah. You gotta do it. Like Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you. All right. The second item we have on our presentation is an update from our city manager. I do want to say, ladies and gentlemen, I attended a meeting down at the county, and I want you to know that in Newberry, we really do value do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. We like to treat people with respect, and we demand to be treated with respect in return. So when people are speaking on this agenda item, and we're not going to vote on anything, we're getting an update, I'm giving a blanket warning to everybody. We're not going to stand heckling. We're not going to stand yelling. We're not going to stand insults, any of that behavior. So we're going to respect you as you're speaking, and we expect that you will respect the other people as they are speaking. I'm going to say this now. I'm a high school teacher. I'm well versed in classroom management. So I'm saying this now. If you don't believe that you can adhere to those behavioral standards, I'd invite you to leave now. I will only give this one warning. After that moment, if you cannot adhere to those behavioral standards, then I'm going to ask you to leave the chamber, because I believe it is a very basic level of how we treat each other. So with that being said, we invite a diversity of opinion. We invite a diversity of beliefs, but those beliefs will be given in a respectful nature. And we're going to give our beliefs in a respectful nature back, okay? With that being said, Mr. New, take us through this exciting potential.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, presentation to give you an update from Newberry staff perspective of the Alachua County Meat Processing Facility. So the commission has probably heard as much about the Newberry Wastewater Plant project as any commission could stand to hear in the last 2 years. So you'll recall that back in May of last year, we closed on an additional 95 acres of property that we intended to use for our wastewater treatment plant expansion site. So when the property became available for us, it was more land than we needed. There wasn't an opportunity for us to subdivide the land, so we knew that there would be more opportunities for that property. And over the summer budgeting process, staff, based on feedback from the commission, developed a concept of the Newberry Environmental Park, which would be what was left over from the wastewater plant expansion. We think it's probably 40 acres or so. That would be government-like operations, probably, and projects that would fit on a wastewater campus and would make beneficial use of that property. So the things that we've talked about with this commission previously is we were going to do a pilot wetlands project. The commission really liked the idea of wetlands treatment and how it provided environmental benefit to the community. As it turned out, as great as it is, Newberry is just a little bit too karst for a wetlands treatment type of setup, and so we opted not to go there with full blown, but we did see it as an opportunity for a teaching demonstration project. We're working on that. We're needing a home for our public works and utility operations. We've talked about that. That site's great for that. We've been working on a partnership with Alachua County to construct a fire training facility on the western side of Alachua County that would benefit not only western Alachua County, but all the counties west of us. A partnership with the private industry, because I know how much Newberry loves public privates, but we're going to work with a composting operation that will take our biosolids out of the wastewater plant. And the list goes on, but Alachua County brought to us a concept they had that staff thought perfectly fit with Newberry's vision for preserving our ag heritage, and that was a meat processing facility. And so we said, staff loves the idea. Let's have a conversation with our elected officials. We've had one, but this is really the first time that we've kind of put more legs underneath it. I'll tell you, from our perspective, we're providing some land for a project that the county wants to undertake. Staff thinks it's a wonderful idea. We are developing an interlocal agreement that would have the terms of our agreement with Alachua County. We understand from Alachua County that they propose to build a approximately 10,000 square foot facility that would process 15 animals a day on average, so that's 75 or so a week. That would be processed in there. And as we've understand from the beginning, their driving force was trying to come up with something that would help the small to mid-size rancher in our region, 75 to 100 miles diameter from where we are, because they think that is becoming the most challenging portion of the ag industry to remain viable. And as it turns out, Alachua County loves agriculture as much as we do. So they brought this concept to us, and we have been, I'll take you through their presentation. We have been working on a lot of things for the Newberry Environmental Park. As you know, we're working on it for our wastewater treatment plant expansion. But in order to move anything through local government, we have acquired the property, we have to change the future land use, we have to change the zoning. That's in process right now. I think we've had the first round of public hearings on that. That'll take 2 public hearings. So the next time you see anything with the Newberry Environmental Park, that's what you'll be seeing, is the changing the land use and the zoning. And then you would expect to see site plans coming along. Those will probably take a bit more time, but we're working on getting those things worked up. Working with the county, the next thing you'll see is this thing get legs underneath it, is the interlocal agreement, which would be the terms of our deal. That's 60% drafted. Alachua County is drafting it. They'll send it over. Staff will initially review it with the city attorney's office, and then we'll get it on an agenda for your consideration. And then after that, the next step, and where I'm going is, there's lots of public meetings that will occur for this project to get approved. After that, there will be a site plan that would come in for consideration and approval at some point once it's been developed. So taking you through the county's presentation, and this is a really solid presentation. We're just going to give you a glimpse into probably less than half the slides, but the backup is in your backup. The whole presentation is in there with a number of other documents that the county put in their backup to the commission. I thought, we went through it and thought that every one of them was relevant. Some of them speak to the economic impacts. The beneficial economic impacts, and some of their timelines in there. So we'll just take you through these, but a driving force, as I mentioned, is promoting local resilience. And so the county's intention is something that focuses on improving the quality of food security for local control. It's making sure that we process or focus on animal welfare and humane treatment. It's niche marking, high quality jobs. The best template that we've seen for it is over on UF's campus. They have a similar type meat processing facility. We've toured it with some of our team members and some of the interested parts of our community. Our first concern was these things can be atrocious in smell. That's nothing that would fit in our community. You'd never know this thing it's right over there next to the VA hospital. You'd never know it exists. When you walk through it, you're stunned by how nicely kept that facility is, and it is approximately the same size of what's being proposed to Newberry. Gave us assurances that you can do it.
Mike, I'll just pause you right there, because that kind of was a revelation for me as well, because I've heard a lot of people say, well, can you do this inside of a city or close to a city? And knowing that there has been one right downtown Gainesville, I think that means it can happen in a way that you can support. So go ahead, Mike. So anyway, the kind of the high level reasons why the county commission was interested in such a project, and that your staff thinks it's such a good project potentially for our community. Kind of a project summary. It's about a $5 million investment, so no chump change going into this. But the facility that they anticipate will be state of the art. It will be built and owned by the county, but contract operated by a private entity that specializes in that. And I've been hearing a lot of, well, where do you find that private operator entity? Just in the little
bit of research that we've done as staff, well, apparently UF and IFAS is producing the best at doing just that, and the area and the facilities that are having success in the southeast almost always have UF, IFAS grads, or grads from UGA, University of Georgia, who has a very similar program to ours, very comparable, and it would, again, serve ranchers within 100 miles. Estimated facilities costs, both on the building and some soft costs. I was looking at the utility costs for the permitting and utility costs, and at 1.2 million, I'd say, well, the county hadn't done enough work in Newberry because surely we're going to charge them way more than that. No, I'm kidding. But right now the project costs are estimated at 5.25 million. And then this was a kind of a conceptual. We have not finalized exactly on the site plan where this would be. The driver of where anything's going to be on that site plan is where the wastewater plant facilities would be. But after that, we'll get to do some choosing for these other facilities, including the animal processing facility. We think the southwest corner of the site is most ideally located, and we also think it'll be the most available when we get through siting the wastewater plant. So in our discussions with the county, it's a 10 to 15 acre site. I think we're settling in on 15 acres for the interlocal agreement. And then just some benefit. Again, I mentioned that this is a larger slideshow presentation. It's in your backup, but just some of the benefits that the county anticipates, including the creation of 70 jobs due to the facility's overall influence in the community. I don't believe that means there'll be 70 people in the assembly line, but I think, you know, Newberry's all about job creation, and 70 good paying jobs in our community is definitely something that piques your staff's interest. And just last slide here is benefits for local agriculture. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions if the commission has any.
I appreciate it, and I believe I saw did the chair of the county commission, are you here? Would you be willing to come up and give us a few words? Commission, you know Commissioner Prizia. She's kind of the brainchild, the genius behind this. Before she even starts, I want to thank you for recognizing that Newberry wants to maintain our agricultural heritage. We want to keep our local farmers in business and as farmland. And it has been truly a breath of fresh air to have a county commissioner come out to us, say, I've looked at your vision, I appreciate your vision, and I want to help you achieve your vision. And so it's been wonderful to partner with you, but it is your project, it's the county's project. We can't wait to see how this ends up, but I did want to publicly say thank you for engaging with us on something that's near and dear to our hearts. So with that, if there's anything Mike missed that you think is central, please, while we've got you here,
sure,
we'll abuse you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all giving me the microphone for a minute. You know how a commissioner loves a microphone. No, but I appreciate you all caring about the agricultural heritage of our county. I think it's critical. It's one of the core economic drivers in our county. I think that we're 7th in cow-calf operations in the state. And so many people don't realize how important agriculture is to Alachua County. You know, they think about UF and they think about the hospitals, but they don't think about the fact that ag is everything else in this county, and it really is a driver. And so for me, it's exciting to have a municipality that's thinking about ag as a core part of their vision. And a meat processing facility is something that I've been working on, honestly, since long before I was on the commission, because I was a individual who wanted to buy local meat from a local rancher, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I found myself in parking lots feeling like I was doing some kind of illegal deal out of somebody's trunk to get meat for my family. And having to buy a whole cow or a half a cow, and I bought a deep freezer, and and the list goes on and on, just so that I could have local meat. And I realized that this shouldn't be this way. If we have ranches all around us, we should be able to access that meat at our local grocer. And so I went on since then, it's been this long journey, and it's come to this point. which is very exciting, and we're excited about partnering with Newberry. So like you said, it's about a $5.5 million facility. The county has put aside $2.5 million of American Rescue Plan funds. One of the things that we saw during COVID, one of the key things that we saw was that a lot of our supply chains shut down, and access to fresh food, whether it was meat or eggs or produce, was really difficult. And it was our local farmers that kind of heeded that call and showed up for us. Our farmers markets and our local farms and ranches saw this massive boom in demand for their product. But again, now our local processing facilities couldn't necessarily meet that demand because most of them are custom facilities, meaning that they can't process animals for resale. And the few USDA facilities that we do have are packed full. In fact, even the custom facilities are looking at 8 to 10 month backups. Now you can imagine if you have a hog or a pit or a cow and you got to feed it for an extra 8 months, that's a big deal. So anyway, we're trying to address that opportunity for our small and our mid-sized ranchers to keep more of their meat local, be able to offer it in local stores for sale legally, and help support the ranches to stay ranching so that we can also then think about how do we support 4-H, how do we support our youth and help them stay on the ranch and make it a viable living for themselves. In addition to our $2.5 million that we've set aside in American Rescue Plan dollars, we've also teamed up with our legislative delegation and Representative Clemens and Senator Perry have brought forward a appropriations request, and that's going well. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we asked for matching funds to the $2.5 million. We'll see where we land. I think we're currently at 1.75 million, so we're not doing bad. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that we can keep that moving, and that will get us very, very close to our goal. Our federal government is also really prioritizing the deconsolidation of our meat industry. We found that about 5 processors control the meat industry, and it's causing a lot of problems with exploitation of labor and animals and other things. And so they've really poured money into this as well, and we're hoping we can also attract federal dollars. UFIFAS is on board, and they've written a letter of support for us, as has Santa Fe College, and they're very interested in the opportunity for this to be a workforce development space and a training facility where we can begin to build those high-quality jobs and train butchers and meat cutters, and also think about ways that we could build into your ag tech park by spawning new entrepreneurs that could make products out of things that might otherwise go to waste. I think about pet treats, for example, where much of our pet treats are coming out of China, and we have a lot of issues with contamination in those products. If we could be making them out of waste products from this facility here locally, it would be great manufacturing jobs and a great way to reduce our waste. So those are just a few examples of why we're doing this project, and I really appreciate y'all's support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, while we have you here, does the commission have any questions for Commissioner
I think
Rizzi?
we've answered everything on mine.
Mike,
Thank you for coming here.
Sure thing. Sure
Jenny,
thing.
can you put the while you're here, can you put the map, the overlay that shows the southern 10 acres? Have we got it too cold in here now? Maybe you can give us like a degree warmer there too. One of the it's kind of hard to see on this map, but that blue is the 10 acres, 15 acres that we're looking at.
Yes, sir.
The house that's in the green is roughly 5,000 square feet. So when you think about the footprint of what a 10,000 square foot facility would be, it would be about twice the size. So as I talk to residents in Newberry, you got the sounds and the smells and those kind of concerns. But when you look at a 10,000 square foot footprint, there is so much land, so much opportunity for expansion, and then the buffer that we'll create around it, that kind of helps the scale. I think when people hear meat processing, they think of the big 1,000 head a day, those kinds of things. And the concept here really is targeted at regional, small farmers, mid farmers, that kind of a thing. So I just wanted to point that out, that if you can kind of double that size and move it over into the blue, you still have an awful lot of land that's all the way around that. So did you have any questions for the manager? Okay, well,
Right,
don't
thank
go
you.
far, right?
Okay,
We'll
I'll
be
be here.
around.
Thank you.
We're going to open this up to public comment. I just want to reiterate, I appreciate everybody being respectful, and we'll keep that respect going. If you did want to speak to this agenda item, please make a queue, come on down and talk to us.
Time limit?
What?
Time limit?
We have 3-minute time limit. I'm going to need to adhere to that because I think a lot of people are here to speak to this, and we have 3 other meetings after that I think some folks are going to speak to. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to ask you where you live, but if you don't mind telling us that you live in Newberry, I think we would appreciate that. We had one county commissioner at the April 4th meeting who was keeping score, and then it turned out a lot of those folks who were speaking against it were not local folks. So if you'll tell us that you live here and that this is impacting you and you're a farmer, I think the commission, we appreciate knowing about local voices and how they feel about things.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
could just real briefly, a recommendation that whoever's on deck, so to speak, stand on deck, and it'll
That's
help us
true.
move
If we
people
can make a
through.
line, then we'll move right on through. And I do need you to say your name for the record.
My name is Stephen Davis. I am a resident of Newberry, long-term resident. I was asked to come and contribute my support to this project, which I do. I'm the developer of Sandia Town Park, which is within a half a mile of here, so it will definitely impact my development. I still support it. What you're talking about, a 10,000 square foot building, is a 1/4 acre on 15 acres. So it can be put in the middle, leave room for expansion, because I think you will be there. Hopefully, we get a good operator, that's going to be the key. But I do support it, even beyond the help it will give the farmers by cutting out the middlemen, because what typically happens, we sell our cows at market, they get trucked out to Nebraska, fed out, slaughtered, then the meat comes back. Well, from here to Omaha is over 1,300 miles. So that's 2,600 miles of travel that we're eliminating, which puts more dollars in the local farmers markets. Big, small, it affects all of us. So I think we couldn't be doing a better thing than what we're talking about to support local farmers, to in fact be greener than we are today. So, outside of the vegans, you pretty well got everybody on board with this. So, and you'll never have them. They have their point, but I do support it, and that's all I have to say.
We appreciate your time.
All
Thank
right,
you, sir.
thank you.
Have a great night. Don't feel like you have to stay till the end. Next in line, come on down.
Kevin Coleman. I live just north of the plant. In fact, the bottom piece of property up next to the red is my property. And I raise cattle. I've been raising cattle my whole life, right there in that spot. And Newberry actually had a processing plant when I was growing up. And it's kind of, families pass away and things go the way they go. But this last few years, we haven't had anything like that, so we had to take our meat somewhere else, take our cattle, hogs, whatever. And I think that I'm for this. I think it's a good thing for Newberry. I think it'll help Newberry in the long run. And we need to just keep on with it and see if we can get the county to support it to the point of getting it done. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
All
Thank
right.
you for the engagement. Next up, come on down.
Hello, my name is Cheyenne Lukander. I live, work, and go to school here in Alachua County. I research public health and prevention. I shop local, I recycle, I'm a considerate person who cares for those around me, and I consider myself very open-minded. However, I can't think of a single reason why my tax dollars should be used to slaughter animals. Despite what you may have been told, meat is not a health food. Red, processed meat are direct causes of cancer. This is from the WHO. Meats and other animal products are full of cholesterol and contribute to heart disease. That is the #1 killer of Americans. I care about people, okay? It's not just animals. And those who eat meat are 10 times more likely to be obese. Why are you trying to use public funds to make us sicker? Who is benefiting from this? I know exactly who is benefiting from this. Surely it's not the people, surely it's not the animals, and no, it's not the environment either. I do understand your point of view when you say If we take away farmers' profits, they're going to be developed. They're going to have to sell their land, it's going to be developed, and I understand that, but still, my point stands. The only people I can imagine being excited about a slaughter facility are those who can profit off of it. Not even meat eaters like to be surrounded by animal slaughter. The facility is even more of a disgrace when you consider that Gainesville is home to the largest Krishna communities in North America. 4,000 of your local constituents are religiously opposed to killing animals, and you still think this is an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars. You may decide to kill animals and consume the bodies they suffered in for you. Perhaps the animal exploitation doesn't bother you, but don't you dare pretend this is in our best interest. Don't you dare tell me this is somehow environmentally friendly. Opening a slaughterhouse is nothing to be celebrated. Grass-fed cows require that acres of forest be cleared, and this renders the local biodiversity desolate. It is selfish of us to demolish local ecosystems to continue to expand animal ag. Grass-fed cows are kept alive longer and produce more methane. This warms up our earth. Don't buy the humane grass-fed lie. There is no reason to eat meat. The same taste can be made plant-based, and there is no right way to do the wrong thing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Next up.
I'm Sheila Miller, and I oppose of this slaughterhouse. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of deforestation, water pollution, global warming, climate change, ocean dead zones, and species extinction. Slaughterhouses causes needless death to innocent, vulnerable beings. Slaughterhouses is the leading cause of water pollution. Slaughterhouses uses billions of gallons of water each year, which is then polluted and disposed back into the waterways. Roughly 60% of waterways that receive waste from the major slaughterhouses are too polluted for drinking and recreational use. Slaughterhouses releases more than 55 million pounds of toxic substance directly into the waterways each year. There is nothing good that comes from slaughterhouses. All it is needless killing of a conscious living being for unnecessary food that we do not need. We don't need to eat animals. It is a needless death on innocent, vulnerable beings. Heritage is not an excuse to kill an animal. Taste pleasure is not an excuse to kill an innocent animal. There is no excuse to kill an animal when we do not need to kill animals. We have other alternatives. We can eat fruits and vegetables, pasta, grains, and seeds. We do not need to cut down trees to make room for a slaughterhouse. We do not need to pollute the water for a slaughterhouse. There is nothing healthy of eating meat. It contains cholesterol and carcinogen, and it's the leading cause of heart disease. There is no need for a slaughterhouse. We do not need a slaughterhouse. We can grow fruits and vegetables instead of killing innocent, vulnerable beings that does not need to be killed. Animal agriculture is a thirsty business, from growing feed crops for livestock and life to the sanction of slaughters and rendering facilities and deaths of the United States. Slaughterhouses uses billions of gallons of water each year, which is then polluted and disposed back into the waterways.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Next up.
First of all, Deborah Campbell from Newberry, Florida. Good evening, everyone. Well, we started tonight, and we did our Pledge of Allegiance. Those few in the back corner over there decided they didn't want to stand up and do the Pledge of
Keep your
Allegiance.
comments to me, though, Miss Debbie.
Okay, and when I asked them why you wouldn't stand up for do the Pledge of Allegiance, they said it was outdated. Well, I'm an American and I'm a Christian, and I live in the middle of the country, and farming is our way here in Newberry, not where they live. They can live in the city, live in their little houses, condos, whatever. But since Sanford's been gone and Newberry Cold Storage and all the other places have been gone, we welcome this facility here. We know how our cows are treated. They're treated well here. I have thousands of around me, thousands. They need to go and spend a day on a farm, and they can see how well these animals are treated. They're not filled with any kind of vaccines. They're not filled with anything. They're grass-fed. They sit out there all day and graze. They get water. Yeah, they poop. So do we. You know, it goes down, okay? We fart. They fart, okay? So do, you know, they do too. I just would say that we welcome this in the community. I would love to have it. University of Florida has the best facility in town. The meat is fabulous. I work at Publix. I sell meat. I eat meat. I'm not fat, okay? And if they want to eat their greens and their Bill Gates plant food-based food, that's welcome to them. They need to watch the movie Soylent Green, because that will wake them up in the real life. We welcome it, and we appreciate y'all going to all this trouble to do it for us.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. And I agree, you look beautiful just the way you are.
Love you.
Next in line. Welcome.
My name is Tanya Freemuth. I'm a Newberry resident, and I do own land. I do run a farm. I do not support this, and for her comments, I'm one of the people she said that didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance. I was actually standing. She said it as she saw me sitting, and I just said that I don't think it was a requirement to attend the meeting, and she actually called me a name, and I just sat silently, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. So I don't feel like it's fair that people who oppose this are lumped together as PETA. You particularly said you didn't think that PETA would pay us to come twice, which is not true. I'm a resident who's concerned. I don't like not being treated as an individual, as a vegan or a non-meat eater. I specifically am concerned about the pollution. I had an animal at the UF Large Animal Hospital, and I was sitting outside, and a smell hit me so strongly that I literally doubled over and had to run inside. And I looked up where the slaughterhouse facility is for UF, and it was across the street. I could smell it. It's an indoor facility, and they're processing 1/10, 1/15 of the animals that this facility will be processing. And just to smell that, I was really surprised. I didn't even expect it, and I had no idea that that was where the location was. My concern also is this becoming a situation where you're going to have Aaron Brockovich here with the pollution, because it's going to be on land that's already contaminated with the wastewater facility, the potential for a toxic waste dump that you guys are considering as well. I'm worried about that. I know somebody spoke at one of these meetings about the kids already smelling the smells from the water treatment plant, and the runoff that's going to be coming off from the slaughterhouse is just going to completely expand the smells. A lot of these communities who live around these slaughterhouses, the people do have health issues. A lot of the kids are developing asthma at a really young age. There's a lot of cancers. And a lot of it's low-income communities. So not a lot of this is coming out into the public, and I'm worried about our aquifer being contaminated. I'm worried about our land value too, and I mean, this is close enough to downtown that I think that these smells or even the pollution could affect the downtown, and I think about these huge events that we're having and how amazing these events are, and seeing the community come out there and thinking about this scaring people off. And we have people, I haven't lived here for very long, but every person who has visited us has said, oh my gosh, your downtown area is so quaint, it's so adorable, and I don't want to see that change. I don't want to see grass not being green anymore because of the pollution. I don't want to chase people off because of the smells. I don't want to worry about these elementary school kids getting sick, and this is something that they're exposed to. And as far as the animal side of it, I mean, you guys, I feel like it falls on deaf ears if we say anything about the animals anyway. of documentary or was recommended at the county meeting, and watch Dominion and see how you feel after that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Come on down, sir. Thank you for your service.
My name is Ken Kenyon. I live in Alachua, but I'm representing both myself and my farming partner, Joe Hunt, who lives here in Newberry. Between the two of us, we have about 100 mama cows. I also have a herd of meat sheep. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I'm considered a food safety expert. I travel all around the world helping meat processing plants. I work very closely with a meat processing plant in southwest Georgia. It's an organic plant. They have a restaurant immediately behind their plant, and you would never know that the plant is slaughtering. I've seen plants in China, I've seen plants in Asia, all over the U.S., so I think I can speak that if a well-run plant that's not doing rendering, which this plant will, it will be very difficult to find out that it has a bad odor. One thing that I think will benefit this community and people around, I told you I'm a food safety expert. I've watched people kill and slaughter sheep and cattle behind their house because they could not get them slaughtered. I've had the unfortunate experience of sitting across the table from the lady whose son died in the Jack-in-the-Box deal because of E. coli, because things were not done right in the plants. We've changed that in the plants, and this plant will have the proper facility, the proper management, and the proper control by the U.S. government. Right now, if Joe and I take our cattle to the market, they're basically 4 buyers. We get whatever they want to pay. Look at what happened when the big plant out in western Kansas caught a fire and 6,000 head of cattle could not be processed a day. We saw supply problems. This will not make that. If you like a real good piece of meat, this facility will give you the opportunity to have aged beef. It will also give you the opportunity to have some very, very fine tasting lamb. I'll just take 1 minute to tell you, most of your lamb is imported from New Zealand and Australia. The legal definition says that it can be, for lamb to be called lamb, can be up to 14 months of age as long as this front joint is not fused. You're going to get the strong flavor. The lambs, like people around here, the meat lambs, at about 7, 8 months of age, there's 80 to 90 pounds. Very, very mild flavor. But the problem is finding a place to take them. I've got customers that would take live lamb all day, but finding a place to get it slaughtered is very, very difficult.
Thank you, sir.
This will change.
I appreciate your comments and the education. Thank you. Next up. Is that it? Do you want to let him go? Now he wants to come to you if you want to let him go first. Come on down, sir. Nobody here knows you, so I'm going to need you to introduce yourself.
Nobody knows me. Nobody knows me, and I hear it on Voice of Newberry, your press secretary, all this fun jazz. My name's Naeem Urched. I am a current resident of Newberry. I don't own a farm. Let me just say that right now. I don't own a farm. I don't own cattle. Don't plan to. No, thank you. I respect it. But first, I just want to, say thank you for the county commissioner. Thank you to the chair of the county for being here. Thank you guys for even hosting this. I want to express my support for the meat packing plant. This proposal to Newberry is a great way to show ultimate support to our local farmers and our community by providing a way to produce local cattle and bring farmers a chance to keep their product local. As of today, cattle is being shipped out. Okay, this whole let's stop, let's save cattle, the cattle's gonna get processed one way or another, guys. Whether it's here locally or it's in Omaha or wherever 1,000 miles away. I don't even want to talk about, we talk about the burden on the cattle. What's the burden on a cattle that's driving well, they don't drive, but being shipped 1,000 miles from its home? That's a lot of stress. I heard from one particular farmer that says, when I send my cattle out to be processed, this is a grass-fed cattle that I took care of, but when I send it out and it gets packaged and it gets shipped back to me, I don't know if that's the same cattle I'm eating. It could be somebody else's cattle that they packed and said it's mine. So with that being said, I don't understand how being local is not going to be beneficial to our local farmers. Listen, I hear it on the forums. I hear it on the city boards. I hear it all the time. Stop building subdivision. Oh, there's too many houses in Newberry. Why are there so many houses in Newberry? Well, I'll tell you why. When farmers can't make a profit and it's time to pay up, they're left with no choice but to sell to a developer. And us, city, have no choice but to say, it's his land. If he can't farm it, he can't make money, here's a subdivision. We talk about pollution. Well, I'd rather have local farms with cows on it than an asphalt farm with a bunch of subdivisions on it. I'm sorry, I feel like that will bring more pollution than a cow having a fart attack. Okay? Please, as a local citizen, and like I said, I don't own a farm, nor do I own cattle, and I live in Newberry, and I have kids in Newberry going to Newberry Elementary and high school, right next to where this is being built. I would like you to consider our town and help our local farmers and keep things local. Because God forbid if another pandemic happens, I like to know we have local support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I bet you never thought you'd utter that phrase publicly. Come on down, man.
Hello. Hi, my name's Cody. I am an Alachua County resident. I do not live in Newberry, but I'm
What
Alachua
was
County.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Cody.
Cody.
Yes,
First
sir.
name, last name?
Yelton.
Yelton. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Go right ahead.
I'd like to say, I am myself vegan, but not everybody who is against this is vegan. I have a lot of friends that aren't. They're conservative, they're libertarians. The second I bring up that the county is gonna own it, they don't care what's being built. They don't want the government involved. They don't want their money spent on it. They want less government. I thought Newberry was kind of the less government side of town, and now all of a sudden, sure, help us out. Like, it seems a little questionable when I'm looking in on it. It's not consistent with the other decisions being made and what is being preached. So I don't believe it's the government's job to own any business. And one of the things, I was watching the wastewater treatment meeting, and you spoke about how you wanted the wastewater treatment plant was going to be grown to help development. So in one meeting you talk about you wanted to help development and you want to grow the wastewater treatment plant, but when it comes to the slaughterhouse, it's all about stopping development. So how can two projects on the same site they don't seem to be compatible with what you're saying regarding the growth or shrinking of development. So the consistency is not there from what I see. Also, it was talked about at the other meetings that plant-based eating is very expensive, which it does not have to be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. But if plants are so pricey, let's help the ranchers grow some plants then. So then they can be profitable. We don't have to subsidize it with taxpayer money. Like, I'm all about ranchers making a profit. I don't want to have to pay for it. I'm a small business owner. I don't get government subsidies if I can't make a profit. I don't know why, as the taxpayers of Alachua County are responsible for helping someone's business along in a monetary way, in that way. And then also, we talk about 15 animals a day at that size, and then the mention of expansion and, oh, there's plenty of room to expand. Well, what does that look like for pollution? What does that look like for noise? And all the other concerns that are being minimized because, oh, it's only 15 animals a day. Well, all that goes out the window as soon as it's profitable and we're able to expand. So I'm looking forward to the future meetings on this where we can talk about it more. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you, ma'am. Folks, if you're out there in the lobby, I can't see if you're trying. So if you want to come, if you're trying to get my attention, just come on in if you want to speak and make a line. Come on down, sir.
Might as well. My name is Joe Hunt. I'm a small farmer here. I'm not much of a speaker, but
Just keep your comments up here.
All right.
They can see you on the TV at home.
I didn't know this was a very touchy subject like it is, but most people have spoke of what Newberry is. Since Sanford them been gone, it's hard to find places to get your meat done. I have to go over 2 or 3 counties to try to get my meat done. I'm hoping that this go through so that the small farmers like myself can get stuff done. That's all.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the conciseness also. Next in line, come on down, young lady. Are you? You waiting, Miss Norfleet? Come on down. You're getting good at this public speaking.
I know. It's like third time. So I'm Christian in Norfleet. I live in Newberry, a Newberry resident. And I would just like to say that we are very much for this. We think it would be a great thing for Newberry all the way around. So we just appreciate y'all taking the time to hear everybody, and we really look forward to the future meetings on this, and we hope y'all give it some consideration. And we think it would be really great for some upcoming things in Newberry as well. And it is more efficient having it here instead of shipping our cattle out west. But, you know, the taxpayers, they're really not paying for us to, you know, ranch and stuff. It just makes a lot more sense to have it local beef, local meat. You know, you can get it right here. Makes more sense for the residents. So we just like to have it good for everybody. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Does she live here? She does. Anyone else? Anyone else back there in the lobby? Come on down, ma'am. You can get right behind her. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kelly Walsh, and I'm from Alachua County. I want to oppose this slaughterhouse plan for multiple reasons. Meat's not good for human health. Meat isn't good for the environment, and it's definitely not good for the animals. But I think the 2 main points that it's pertinent for you guys to think about, the first one is it makes absolutely no sense to me why the government should intervene on a private industry and why my tax money is being used to support the meat industry. If that could ever be explained, that would be appreciated, because it makes no sense why taxpayer dollars should be used to build a slaughterhouse, which would benefit local ranchers, but really no one else. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up is that I have lived down the road from a slaughterhouse, and it's a legitimate horror show. That's definitely being minimized in all of these conversations. I've seen the animals getting delivered to the slaughterhouse. It's horrific. Nobody wants to see that, not even meat eaters. The fear in their eyes is a nightmare. You will be able to smell it. When I lived down the road from the slaughterhouse, you could smell it every day. It wasn't just the feces, but you could smell the blood in the air. It would coat the walls of my house. It is absolutely disgusting. And you can hear them scream, you can hear them bellow when they're being separated from their families. So the sounds, the sights, and the smells of a slaughterhouse will not benefit the town of Newberry or its residents. I hear everybody's concerns about their property values decreasing because of this, and I'll say that I moved out of the house I was living in near the slaughterhouse because of it. And the town that I moved out of is known for the stink of the slaughterhouse. Everybody in the state knows it and ridicules it. Nobody wants to live there. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Come on down. We appreciate you being a gentleman. Letting her go first.
My name is Michael Freemuth. I am a Newberry resident. My wife spoke earlier. Yeah, we're new to this. You know, we're new to Newberry, and we do like it here. I do hear all the talk about like the keeping the ag property, you know, and like we do. We have our little farm, and we're on ag zone land. So I guess really I do, you know, I don't want the slaughterhouse. But I do want you guys to think about like the rezoning stuff too, because if you're rezoning all this ag land to other uses, that is gonna get rid of our ag zone properties, you know? So if you guys are the ones, you know, approving all these, I mean, subdivisions are gonna go up everywhere, but, you know, if you keep like reclassifying all the ag properties, you know, to other uses, it is gonna kill our ag lands, you know? So I did wanna point that out just for you guys to consider, you know, that in your future meetings with, not just for this, you know, for all the other projects that are coming up, you know, if we're trying to preserve our properties, you know, I don't want to see my property go or get bought out by a subdivision, or if, you know, if I start seeing my neighbors getting bought up, I'm going to know I'm going to end up having to move, you know, because they're, you know, I want my property and I don't want it to be a subdivision. So I guess I wanted to point that out to you guys. And, trying to think of anything else just off the top of my head, but yeah, that's about it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, for coming. We appreciate your time. Anybody else out there? Come on down, sir.
Hi, my name is Wesley Hucker. I'm not a resident. However, USDA is who's providing the funds for the initial fundraising and everything else. And this money was provided for, you know, COVID relief and all that, and just coming through, and now somebody wants to take advantage of it. Obviously it's there, and that's not a problem if it was used for the right things, you know. As speaking to many people in the community, people who live here, I realize that, like, this is just to profit off of a few, and it's to use federal money for private enterprise. It's not very respectful. It's not very considerate of everybody else, and it sounds like that money's not allocated to anybody growing plants or anything, which is pretty. I don't even have words for it. Just seems like you're pretty concerned about killing animals, but not about helping people grow food, and worry about if this is supposed to be a food crisis, you know, security issue. This is not what this is. This is in disguise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come on down. Come on up, man. If y'all can move into the aisle, then I'll kind of know. So come on down.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ashley Ulrich. I'm a proud Newberian. My family owns land here. I went to Newberry High School. And I just, you know, there's a lot of things that can be said about this, but the one thing that I want to say is a lot of the people that are speaking to this, they're not from Newberry, and they don't understand what a special place Newberry is, and how that is going to impact the day-to-day operations of the meatpacking facility. This will probably, like, if I had to put my money on it, I would say that this would be the cleanest, most well-run, most well-cared-for facility probably in the nation when it is built, because the people of Newberry take that degree of care and consideration for their neighbors. And that's something that I think a lot of people that live in Alachua County, they unfortunately haven't gotten to experience what an incredible place Newberry truly is. And that's something that I've had the benefit of experiencing throughout my lifetime. And I think that's something that's really special about this. And that's why it's a really, really important thing for the community, because this community was built on farming. And this facility will enable that to continue for generations to come. And the people that will be benefiting from this are truly the backbone of this community, and there's some really incredible people. And so this is something that will support really incredible families and continue to foster a wonderful place to live in Newberry for many generations to come. So I support it, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you coming out. Next in line, come on down.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Marshall. I am a resident of Alachua County. I am a farmer's daughter. I have a great deal of appreciation for what farmers go through and the need and the support that they need, that many of them currently get now from USDA Rural Development. There was a $215 million grant available for these kinds of expansions. Currently, here in this county, as well as across the country, the life expectancy rate of Americans for the first time since World War II has dropped, and it has dropped for a reason. There are so many challenges that our families are facing. I so wish we had as much concern about the majority as we do a small group of people. The life expectancy rate in the United States of America has dropped. And I listened to the prayer that was prayed. When we stand before our Creator and we are judged on what we did for the humans, I want you to think about that. What did I do for the humans that elected me? Our sheriff's department is 100 jobs down of people that need jobs, that need to go to work. Where are the workforce development programs to help keep our communities safe, to help provide economic opportunities for those who make up our workforce in this community, as well as across this county? I applaud all of the efforts to bring about economic viability for communities. But as a member of this human race, when you stand before your Creator and you're asked, what did you do for the humans that you were elected to serve, what will you tell your master? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, come on down, sir. And I want to just remind everybody, because I know we got a lot of people lingering, there is no vote tonight. This was an update, so if you're waiting for a vote, there is no vote tonight. This is a presentation and a conversation. So I know a lot of you are standing, and you might want to say your comment and then go home, and we won't be offended if that's what you want to do. Go ahead, sir.
Hello there, Mr. Mayor. I'm Ted Dobracki. I do live in the city of Newberry, but on the edge where it's kind of rural. And for full disclosure, about half of my 6 acres is part of a much larger cattle pasture, not mine. The ground is leased for a nominal amount. But the reason I came here to speak today is actually on the wastewater issues. In a past life, actually 2 half-lives ago, I worked in the water and wastewater treatment industry on some of the biggest projects in the country, including advanced wastewater treatment for Indianapolis and Houston, the Los Angeles Aqueduct project for drinking water. And we've had systems that used oxygen-activated sludge for both BOD removal and nitrification. From everything I understand about what your development people and engineers are doing with the wastewater treatment plant, is that your plant here should be easily able to treat the waste that will be coming out of this facility. And that's the main thing I wanted to say. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. That is good information. Come on down, sir. Good to see you.
Very good to see you too. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you, and thank you for having this forum for us to be able to speak about this. I actually don't live here in Newberry, but I've lived in Florida. I was born and raised in Tallahassee. I've traveled around through Orlando and Miami and all parts of it, and most recently I've gotten back from Las Vegas, where I would also go out to the slaughterhouses out there, as well as the one that I just went to yesterday at Orlando Poultry, Orlando Halal Poultry, and where you see the animals get killed, where you can hear them screaming, you can smell the blood and the death and the fear in the air, and it's just kind of like, why are we still doing that in 2023? So it would just be really beautiful to see this not actually be funded with taxpayer dollars, or really maybe if there's just so many other things that we can do to be able to help people. If it's all about creating 70 jobs, but then, slaughtering 15 animals a day, 365 days a year, I just feel like there's a much better way that we could create 70 more jobs with that $5 million or with this plot of land that can be there. So just wanting to see a more compassionate world, one that doesn't think that, just needless violence that's pretty much what it comes down to. Is, are we doing this for our health? No, most of my family, a lot of them eat meat. I'm kind of one of the only ones, the outliers of that. And, we see that they just have very clogged arteries. It leads to kind of an early grave, not just an early grave, but the decline of the health before they even get there. A lot of them, they feel like they're very big, strong, and healthy, because you can be strong eating whatever it is that you want, but what are you actually doing to your insides is what I like to challenge people to look at. And just, I know that we can make way more smarter decisions with the money, so I just truly hope that perhaps that's what will happen here with this too. So thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, my name is Royce Ashcroft. You're welcome. Thank you.
And I don't know what you do, sir, but you should be a narrator. You got a great voice. Great voice. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on down, young sir.
Hello. Hello, my name is Evan, and I just want to say real quick, I have been to so many slaughterhouses. I can't even count, and it's so sad, all these places. The workers, we talk to them, and they say that they made a bad decision working here, or it's the only place they can work. I've never met a slaughterhouse worker that was happy with their job killing the animals. They all say it's upsetting, but they just have to get through it. So just for human rights, because people, this isn't like a good workplace, just killing animals. I really hope this doesn't go through. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You get an A+ for conciseness. Yeah. Anyone else? Come on down, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Shannon Blair, and I just want to say, I want to say a few things. First of all, yeah, he was more concise. He did better at what was it, brief and to the point and gone. All right, so I know, I just want to first of all say, we're not the enemy. We really want to help people. We want to help everyone. I have friends who are ranchers who transitioned. One of my friends, Renee King-Sonnen, we've been to the sanctuary that her and her husband, Tommy, have in Texas. We actually helped them move, get settled right before a hurricane was coming, and they were moving properties. And it's a really incredible story. They're an older couple. They now not only were able to rescue the last of the animals and continue to rescue a lot more, but they also have a veganic farming thing going on that's really neat, where they don't even use anything from animals to fertilize or anything like that, to show that it can be done. It can be done well for the lands. And we have the science. We know that eating animals is not in our best interests as a species. Like some other people have mentioned, it's the number one, heart disease is the number one killer in the United States and in the world. The numbers have recently gotten worse. Now it's 1 American every 34 seconds on average that dies from this preventable and reversible disease. So it's like about 2,541 Americans perishing every day from something that can be prevented through a whole food plant-based diet. And I just feel like we should really be moving in that direction, especially with funds that have come from a pandemic. We know that zoonotic diseases, aside from the ones that are spread by insects sometimes, the rest of them are all caused by our use and exploitation of animals and can be avoided. And I might not be a resident of Alachua or of Newberry, but I am a resident of Florida, and I'm just around that radius that you'd be servicing with this slaughterhouse. And, over half my life ago, I wrote papers in high school about groundwater contamination and the things that come from places like this. All the slaughterhouses that were mentioned in the last meeting at the county, we've been to those, the ones that were named in person. And I just want to also mention that they're USDA sites. The USDA thing is being touted as like unbelievable. There's one legal slaughterhouse in South Florida, Mary's Ranch. We've been there as well many times. And I just want to mention that that's not only a USDA inspected site, but it's a training facility. And law enforcement's there regularly. Well, ARM, Animal Recovery Mission, went in undercover, and in 43 years, there wasn't a single violation, but in 5 days, they saw so many felony acts of animal cruelty. It was unbelievable. So USDA is not much.
We appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you for coming.
Is it not, it's not 5 minutes at the city meeting?
minutes.
Oh,
3
okay.
minutes.
Thank you for allowing us to speak. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You've been very patient, very generous, letting everybody go and cut in front of you. Thank you, sir.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight? My name is Zeke Norfleet, and I've lived in Newberry, grew up in Newberry all my life. I'd just like to say I'm for it. It will benefit the farmers, it will benefit the ranchers, but I also think you got to remember that probably 98, 99% of the people that actually live in Newberry would love to buy meat from their local farmers and ranchers. And part of the thing with the health concerns, you know, some of this with the heart disease and, you know, some of that might be from the large fry and the large Coke they're getting at McDonald's on their way home, because all of your top athletes and most of the people that are in really good shape, they're not vegetarians. You can guarantee that. But I think it is important to remember that the residents of Newberry would like to be able to buy meat from their local ranchers and farmers instead of having to get it trucked in and shipped in from Texas and Kansas and coming from who knows where. So thank you guys for hearing us.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Anybody else? Come on down, ma'am. We're gonna have to work on we're getting like a plane in here, and all the roads are getting too close.
My name is Mary Gaffney, and I am a resident of Newberry and have been for the last 5 years. One of the things that brought us out here actually was all the farms, the cattle. I still enjoy driving home and seeing the property with the cows and stuff on it. Not so much all the new housing development. I was hoping to see more of the agricultural when we moved out here, and that landscape is fastly changing. I support the meat processing plant. I support the butcher shop that we're going to have in Countryway. I'm going to go to Publix. I'm going to eat my meat. I understand everybody has their own different feelings about it, but it's going to create jobs. It's going to help the economy. It's going to bring money to the city of Newberry in a way of taxes or however any of that all works. Maybe we'll eventually get that water plant that I would so much like to have our drinking water processed better. So anyway, I do support it. I eat meat. And I thank you for bringing it to the city.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Come on down, sir. You making your way?
Don't forget to let us know if you live here. In here in Newberry, and I just want to say I'm for it. I think y'all doing a great job.
What's your name, sir?
Trip Norfleet.
Thank you. All right, now you just upped the youngin' over there on conciseness, but he did a good job too. Anybody else? Going once? I knew I saw you move a minute ago, so come on down.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Commissioners. Herb Marlowe, Newberry. Y'all are aware of the economic benefits of this. I'd hoped a soil scientist would be here tonight to talk about the positive environmental benefits of having animals on land. So it is, but I won't go into that. I want to speak it from a very different perspective. I think we can approach this from the viewpoint of this is benefit to all the humans in this county, as well as all the nature and wildlife in this county. You're aware of the tremendous growth in Florida. You're aware most people who live out here we wanted a rural area, we wanted low density, we wanted the life that we have. As I've worked with counties along both coasts and across the I-4 corridor, those residents wanted that too. And they didn't get it. Their county commissions tried to do it through regulation with limited impact. They tried to buy land, but all they could afford to buy was a limited amount of environmentally sensitive lands. They couldn't buy farmland. So what I'm urging tonight for you, and I hope you urge your colleagues on the county commission, is something no other county in this state has done. A market-based economic development strategy for agricultural vitality. Nobody has done that. That has a lot of pieces to it. One key piece is a piece of infrastructure. This plant. It's that. It's simply infrastructure. And if you look at the millions we spend in this state on economic development activities, we spend part of that on infrastructure because it's a public-private partnership, and as public, we spend some things that we can't do privately. It's not being libertarian or conservative or anything. It's just how we do the economic development in this state. So I would urge you to do that. I would urge you to encourage your colleagues. I would also say that there really is a choice here, and it's a long-term choice, and it's real. If you and if the county commission chooses to try to do an intensive thing to keep the agriculture vital in this county, then there's a chance we can keep Alachua County. If we choose not to do that, I will virtually guarantee you will see the farms disappear one by one. You'll see the rooftops rise and the strip malls rise and the traffic jams come. So we have a choice. We can do this and many other things to support it, and we can keep Alachua, or we can become Palm Beach, Broward, Lee, Orange, whatever you want to choose. That's the choice before you. I urge you as you move through this process to remember that's the opportunity here, to encourage your county commissions to keep that opportunity in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I tell you, I don't know if that guy has any youngins, but if he does, I bet you they're super smart. Anybody else? Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Thank you all for your engagement. We appreciate it. We'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to exit it, if you were not here for, if you're here for something else. And thank you all. I'm going to give you a couple minutes because I know that'd be a little noisy to get in and out. Just so you know, by my count, we had 15 speaking in favor. All 15 of those were local. We had 10 who spoke against. 4 of those people were local. So sounds to me that local folks really do want to have it. On that issue, I just closed that one. I was giving people, but we have public comment right next. so we have public announcement. I'm just giving a couple minutes to let folks who are here to speak to that one agenda item exit. I could have been off too, so.
I wasn't sure.
All right.
One lady, the blue. Oh, I know. I was like, I put her against. She was against?
And folks, if you could, if you're exiting, if you could move out into the lobby or outside and carry on the conversations there. We do have 2 other meetings we got to get through, and we got to finish this one. I appreciate it. And I think we have some people trying to get into the bathroom. Officer, if you wouldn't mind, or Mike, are you going to shut the doors there? We appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to move into public announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're here to speak to something that's not on the agenda tonight, Commission likes to hear from you early and often. This one's kind of coming late at us, but if you got a garage sale, something like that, now's your time. If you have a more controversial topic, we have other public comment for things that are on the agenda. 5 minutes at that point. Obviously, anything that's on the agenda, you'll also have an opportunity to speak. So public announcements, hop on up here.
Good evening, Joy Glanzer, the outgoing chair of the Newberry Opioid Task Force. And if you could believe it, we're in our 4th year of operation and serving our community, raising awareness on the opioid issue and educating the public, especially our youth, on the dangers of drug use in general. I'm here this evening to give a brief overview of the accomplishments in the past year and of our plans moving forward. And this is just an outline for sake of time because we've been here so long already. And if you want to know more, we can meet individually. If I can't finish in 2 minutes, our incoming chair, Diane Burchett, will finish. Oh, thank you.
He's got your back.
Okay, last summer, thanks in large part to your generous contribution, in Newberry, we trained 17 instructors in the RAD Kids program. They're now in our public schools showing our elementary students how to set boundaries and raise their self-esteem. These qualities are imperative if we want to change and help our children say no to drugs. Through reaching out to them. Next is the city of Gainesville, followed by Alachua County, and we fully expect the county to contribute matching funds to this effort. We created the coalition with smaller communities, and we realized this is bigger than Newberry, and so we needed a larger umbrella under which we can realize our mission. And so the Children's Trust of Alachua County was a natural and perfect fit for us. We're just now finishing up collecting the interlocal agreements from them, so soon we hope that we'll have a countywide task force. This is kind of a big deal. That
Very
entity
big
will
deal.
decide how to spend the money on awareness through media, literature, PR campaigns, and more. And each community that has contributed will have a voice in how to spend these funds. We've had two,
Pass it off to Naeem.
he's kind of right.
Yeah.
Naeem is our incoming chair for the Newberry Opioid Task Force. Thank you.
And ma'am, if you could slide, she was sitting there, she just got up to speak, so if y'all could slide down a little bit and let her come in, we'd appreciate it.
Hey guys, Naeem, my timer, 2 minutes. I need them all. I'm your incoming chair. Thank you guys so much to the opioid, I'm your new chair of the opioid task force. But to continue on what Joy said, we've had 2 what we call breaking the silence events where Newberry citizens, from a teacher to a grandmother, have told their stories about how opioid abuse has affected their lives. This is an ongoing series, and our next one will be in the late summer. This past weekend, we partnered with HPW in Gainesville and the Newberry Fire Department to host a DEA drug back event. We collected 38.3 pounds of drugs, which are now off the street. That's approximately 8.5 pounds more than Gainesville location collected. Our firemen also cooked a barbecue lunch which raised $2,000. Throughout the past year, the Newberry Opioid Task Force has participated in both Watermelon Festival and Main Street Festival. Our presence attracted those curious about what we are doing there, but also those who found us to be in a soft place to land. We were able to distribute literature and keepsakes to remind people about this opioid epidemic. So despite losing roughly a year and a half to COVID-related restrictions, we have made progress. Sadly, this effort will not be ending anytime soon, and we appreciate all the support this board and the city has provided. We stand strong and up to the challenge to which you have charged us. Thank you. And Joy she's going to serve on the Children's Trust as our arm of the task force, and I will be your new incoming chair for the opioid task force, and I do foresee a lot of things happening, a lot of forward movement, as well as my vice chair, Mark Modis. Sorry, I almost said Mark Clark. Well, Mark Modis is our newest vice chair. And we really appreciate you guys creating this task force and how much it's already spread like wildfire. And all I'm doing is pouring gasoline on that baby, and we're gonna keep going. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And while I've got Joy here, thank you for your service as the chair. We appreciate that. We look forward to Naeem's service as chair. And we do have a question down here on the dais.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I think y'all both need to get with Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not done with my pork. It was unbelievable. It was great.
The food was good.
It was good.
He did not cook it. The fireman cooked it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, fireman.
Oh,
But,
you need to tell Rocky about it.
Tell
I
Rocky
got you.
the portions.
Yeah.
Because I'm a meat eater.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
next time with that endorsement, we'll raise $4,000. There you go.
Can I say something to
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yeah.
To that aspect, it was such a hit that I'm not going to name any names, but on one of the local preschools is very interested in getting with the Newberry Fire Department again, where they have Touch a Truck, they have all the water events for the kids, and make another event, another family event, where we can raise funds again, do another barbecue hosted by the fire department, continue to raise money, and at the same time raise awareness for these kids. So, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Newberry Opioid Task Force. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 4. So we pulled.
That was, oh, I'm sorry. All on the consent. There we go. Item 6. This is request for large-scale future land use map amendment from ag to plan development for a project known as Newberry Plaza on 128 acres. This is a legislative public hearing. I'm going to ask the attorney if you would please read on first reading ordinance 2023-15/CPA 2307 into the record.
This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to an amendment to the future land use map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in Section 163-31842 and 3 Florida statutes and in conformance with Sections 163-3161 through 163-3215 Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from agriculture to plan development on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel number 01932-000-000, consisting of approximately 128 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. John Paul, you're going to take us through the presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Go ahead and flash forward to the presentation. For the request that's before you tonight, which is, as the Ms. City Attorney has read into the record, a future land use map amendment from agriculture to plan development on 128 acres known as Newberry Plaza. And this is the general location of the property within the city limits. This is the aerial image of the property, just showing some of the topography, cross sections of roads, and the property limits. The request is a future land use amendment from agriculture to plan development. The plan development proposes 350 single-family dwelling units as well as 150,000 square feet of non-residential use. This was heard at the April 3rd Planning and Zoning Board meeting, which received a recommendation of approval with conditions to explore the feasibility of the reuse or bifurcation of the gray residence, as well as putting in some sort of trigger mechanism for the commencement of the commercial development, which the agent for the owner had offered at the 151st CO, that the commercial development would be build ready, meaning utilities to the property line and the site ready for construction. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant so they can provide their presentation. Okay. That completes my overview. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't everybody jump up at once now.
I'll get trampled from the audience. Good evening, Jerry Diedenbach, CHW. We are here tonight after your staff's recommendation for approval on this project and also your Planning and Zoning Board. As you recall, you approved this a few years ago and it was a little larger in scale. It is about 1/3 the size now, with about 300 homes. I don't want that last portion to be confusing to you of the points that came out of the Planning and Zoning Board. We are actively pursuing alternatives for the Churt Historic House that's located on the property. And as you would imagine, the commercial portion of this development is our primary concern right now. It is advertised out there on Newberry Road. People are calling all the time with all different types of businesses that want to locate in the community. So I think irrespective of a condition up there that something has to happen by the 151st home, we will see the commercial far in advance. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Ryan Thompson, AICP, and he is going to take you through this presentation briefly and succinctly, just like that little calm young man earlier today.
Well, and thank you for addressing right off the bat that the commercial's going well. You're going to hit that mark. I know that was the topic that we spent a lot of time talking about at the P&Z and this board, so we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ryan Thompson, CHW, agent for the applicant. Our request this evening is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for plan development and a rezoning for a complementary PD to create a multi-phase, single-family residential community with neighborhood-scale commercial uses. We submitted the applications in January, and as Jerry mentioned, this was an application that you, a similar application on a portion of the property that you approved a couple of years ago. We did receive a recommendation of approval from city staff as well as recommendation for approval from the city planning and zoning board. For context, the project site is just outside the core of the city. Here, highlighted in purple is the economic development overlay area, which is also the same boundary as the historic district and Main Street area. In the comprehensive plan, there's 3 key notes there. Growing from the inside outward, being located close to the core of downtown. It's also supported by public infrastructure, both water and sewer, and it's a balanced approach of diversity of uses where the residents will help support those non-residential uses and vice versa.
Actually, before you move on, because we got to get a number of folks in the house, I don't know what color that is. The circle on the outside of there, it's like teal. I don't know.
Yes.
So you see kind of the blue line. That's our
Yes, sir.
urban service area. I hear a lot of times people say, well, I hear you say that you're trying to preserve farmland, but I also hear you say that that you're developing, right? Well, that line there is Newberry's urban service area. So after spending an entire year working with our community, having workshops and surveys, that urban services area is Newberry's way of saying inside that we intend to develop, we will provide urban services. Outside that line, we intend to not develop that. We are going to encourage that to stay agricultural, green space, those kinds of things. So that's one of the responsible ways that government can grow is by predetermining where in your city you will allow growth and where you're drawing a line and saying not outside that urban services line. Sorry, I know that's not your presentation, but the circle was right there calling to me, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the point I should have made. And this project site is well within that urban service area. This is a close-up of the project site. The approved National Grocer is just to the north on the other side of State Road 26. There will be a traffic signal either at Newberry Lane or County Road 235. At Newberry Lane, it would better serve the commercial uses for this project, and we're a proponent of that location. The existing future land use map is agriculture. Again, 2 years ago, you approved the planned development very similar to this. That also included the 140 acres to the east and 40 acres to the south. This project mirrors that closely. It does have slightly less of a density of dwelling units and a higher square footage for the non-residential uses. So again, our request is for planned development. The zoning reverted back to agriculture, and we're requesting planned development for that. This is the preliminary development plan for the project site, very similar to what you saw previously with the commercial along State Road 26. Immediately behind that, there will be stormwater and open space to serve as a transition to the residential areas. There'll be a core, what you see here in the gray is the core transportation infrastructure for the project site. We will have a connection to State Road 26 at Newberry Lane. There'll be 2 right-in, right-outs on both sides of that to serve the commercial uses. We'll have another connection to Southwest 242nd Street and future access to the south and to the east in case those properties develop in the future. There was a 40-foot strip that we reserved for future right-of-way. That is a requirement within the city's land development code. That is a section line. This highlights the access to State Road 26 and 242nd with the future access highlighted here. The open space on the site will be a minimum of 15%. No more than 50% of that will be stormwater management facilities. Highlighted in red is the 150,000 square feet of non-residential. And here, Area A, that's a typo, it's actually 350 units, please forgive me, of single-family residential detached that could be either rental product or for-sale product. And an amenity center for the residents, and then the existing home that Mr. Dienbach spoke about earlier, that we are trying to preserve or integrate into the development or section off and allow somebody from the local community take ownership and management of that facility. This is the preliminary utility service plan. Again, utilities are both in Dock Corrales at 242nd as well as along State Road 26. Future right-of-way connections with connection. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. You have a traffic signal shown there. Is that something the developer is willing to pay for and put in and work with FDOT?
They are willing to work with both FDOT and the city and work to get that traffic signal there, and they are willing to contribute to that financially. Yes, sir.
Contribute? Pay for it. Because I can contribute $1, right? So my question was, are they going to pay for it? Is their development there taking the whole thing?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know it's proposal at this point, but that's the question.
We have been in discussion with the developer about participating in a consortium with Publix, with the city, with the county, to participate in funding for a proposed traffic signal.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
So again, utilities are in place to serve the development, and then it'll have sidewalks and trails and such within the development for the residents. As Mr. Dienbach mentioned earlier, in the Planning and Zoning Board, there were two focused conversations, one on the historic structure and the commercial development. Staff offered this language, and our client agreed wholeheartedly to this language. So prior to the issuance of the 151st home certificate of occupancy, the developer will completed the site work, stub utilities, and completed access roads to the commercial parcels. Again, the commercial for them is the focus of this development. And then also determining the feasibility and adaptive reuse for the parcel with the home, or subdividing that parcel off for somebody else to take that opportunity. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to conclude with receiving Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation for approval and motions for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Commissioner Coleman.
Is City of Newberry providing the power there?
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if Commissioner Coleman recalls, that was the property that we traded territory for with Clay Electric back, it's been about 4 years ago, where we picked up all of the properties surrounding Easton. So the answer, that was the long answer. The short answer is no, that is Clay Electric's territory.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman can't remember past 2 hours.
I was being playful.
Is that your only question?
That was it.
Okay.
I was trying to find it in here.
Other questions from the dais? At the last time we talked about this, we had a conversation about the water tower, and we were going to sample around. No? I got it. I'm on. I'm sorry.
No.
Tanglewood.
The lift station?
Too many things going on in Newberry. It's too late. Okay. So that's not this issue. All right, then.
I believe there was discussion, Mr. Mayor, about the lift station and whether that be located on site or if that would be.
Maybe that's what I got it.
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. If there, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Has there been any discussion about the city assuming the property where the historic house is?
I'm sorry, thank you, I appreciate that. We had a lot of conversation about that. Any updates on that conversation? I know we have the property owner here. We had talked about bifurcating it. We talked about trying to blend it in.
Correct. So forgive me for mixing up my headings here, but the bottom section of that is verbatim from the development order that's in your backup material. And if you'd like me, I can read that to you. At the direction of the City Commission, the developer shall determine the feasibility of the following: A, adaptive reuse, i.e. event space, meeting hall, clubhouse, virtual office, museum, bed and breakfast, or other amenity-based and/or revenue-generating use that would effectuate cost recovery for the maintenance and operation of the historic structure. Or B, subdividing the parcel in a manner that it can be accessed from the east property limit for sale or lease by the neighboring owner. And C, results of these studies shall be completed and included with the final development plan.
So we'll have an idea before this project comes to completion.
Yes, sir.
And we've given you some broad latitude to explore some different things.
Yes, sir.
Does that satisfy you, Commissioner?
Sometime I'd heard there was a possibility of the property being deeded over to the city. I don't know whether that was an actual discussion or is that just something I heard?
Not particularly. It was part of the conversation, but the conversation was wide-ranging, and it was pretty much, we want to save this historic building, but my memory is that the city was not interested in taking on another structure, maintenance, those kinds of things. But we did want the developer and the property owner to look at, think outside the box. And so I'm pretty sure that what we've got written there encompasses just about every idea that we threw at them, and they committed to work with the owner to explore those and then get back with us. And that says that the studies shall be completed and included with the final development plan. So before you guys give the final okay, we'll have an idea.
Okay.
Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Mayor, so when once the development agreement is all done, said, will we be putting in the traffic signal prior to housing or only prior to commercial? Or what's going to kick the traffic signal?
I would default to Mr. New.
Mr. Mayor, the driver for the traffic signal is actually the development that the commission approved last year for a Publix grocery store. And currently, we haven't got an agreement to present to the commission. Probably will be the May 8th meeting. We do have it in draft from FDOT, is that if we execute an agreement with FDOT that commits the city of Newberry to FDOT to working to get that traffic signal installed, that they will release the permitting for Publix, for access improvements, which case Publix will move on. They'll commence immediately. I heard in a conference call this morning that FDOT anticipates that they would have the traffic signal erected within a year or two, to use their phrase. So the Publix would start construction and likely would be opened prior to the traffic signal, but wouldn't be open for more than a year. I can't imagine this development getting enough speed. We've got to, if approved tonight, these go to FDEO for 90-day review. I can't imagine this particular development getting enough momentum to get things approved and constructed prior to the traffic signal.
And Mr. Mayor, let me add that while Ryan knows a lot, sometimes Mr. New only sends me things, and I've been taking those draft agreements and sending them to our clients so that they can figure out how this tripartite agreement would work between our clients, the city of Newberry, FDOT, and all. I can't have a million things go to his email box, maybe only 999,000.
All right. Other questions from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Yep. Watch everybody's toes. There we go. Come on out.
Mary Gaffney, I just have one question. With all these new housing developments that you're proposing to be, approved, how is that going to affect our school system, which is already so overcrowded? Are we going to be building new schools to accommodate for these additional housing developments? Our services, our fire department, our police department, which we don't have, it's, Alachua County. I just think that growth is great, but all the other things have to be considered as well. And people that moved to Newberry didn't want to live in a Gainesville or in Orlando. And that's, to me, seems to be what's happening. It's just more and more housing developments going in. Anyway, just my opinion.
The short answer is yes. We have processes that give us the opportunity to think about all of those, and we don't really do back and forth in this moment, but if Commissioner Martin wants to give his thoughts on the schools in particular, we answer that question all the time. So we have a lot of kind of prepackaged.
It is kind of a recurring question. The reality of the matter is this: we do not actually control the school boards or the schools and the school system. That is actually something that we have to partner with the school board with. We actually just had a first rezoning listening session by the school board at Oakview last Wednesday, and had lots of conversations. There was a lot of civil venting, I guess you could say. There was a lot of encouragement as well. And at this point, they are really just starting to step into a rezoning of the entire district, which is all schools at all levels throughout the whole county, because Newberry is actually, although the leader in overcapacity of the school, we're not actually the only one. I think district-wide, the schools are in whole average about 88 to 92% capacity, somewhere in that range, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school. So the school board actually has a rezoning website that they have built. It is sbac.edu/rezoning. All of the information is up there as to the additional rezoning public discussions that they're going to have, any of the presentations of the backup work that the staff has given them. I have been super critical of the school board for years, and Wednesday I even went so far as to extend an olive branch to the school board and saying, look, if we want to put the past in the past and we can put our differences aside for the sake of conversation and getting this problem worked out, that I was willing to do that for myself. And I actually talked with Diane McGraw after the meeting, who I've butted heads with quite a bit. But we had a very good, productive conversation after that meeting, and her and I are going to be getting back together here in the very near future.
Thank you, sir. And just to reiterate, hang on one second, she's in front of you. 141% overcapacity at Newberry Elementary. Only 60% of that population lives in the city of Newberry. 120% overcapacity at 120% capacity at Oakview. Only 50% of that population lives in the city of Newberry. 110% at Newberry High School. Only 40% of the population at the high school lives in the city of Newberry. Newberry has grown 5% a year, which is robust but manageable for the last 10, 15 years. Jonesville was Rosie's and a bar when I was a kid. Jonesville now has a higher population than the city of Newberry does. Jonesville has apartments. We build 150 houses a year. They build probably 300-400, not counting the apartments. And Jonesville is split, and they ship those kids to Newberry. So the overcapacity issues that do exist are real issues, but they do not come from Newberry's growth. Newberry has grown conservatively and responsibly, but as Commissioner Martin said, we're not in charge of who gets shipped to us. So if you took all of the, and Archer's kind of a sister city, but they have an elementary school. If you took the kids that the school board buses into the city of Newberry, all of our schools would have ample capacity to handle our growth. So I just want to comment on that. Ms. Debbie, come on down.
Hey, Debbie Campbell again. I'll be up here a lot tonight. Okay. We have over 8,000 more homes coming here. I have 180 going on the end of my road. Those were all grandfathered in, what I've been told. Everything that is coming has been grandfathered in. This new development is not grandfathered in. The roads cannot take it. Like you said, we have that big complex coming next to Publix. Behind Publix is going to be another subdivision. Here. The roads can't handle it. Does anybody think about the infrastructure, about the roads? I come home 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4, come across the railroad track. Most time I take first, 99% of the time. I come across the road, it's backed up all the way to the railroad tracks, to the light. You come back this way now, everybody's going left. That is backed up. What are we going to do about the roads? Answer me that one. Publix is about ready to walk away with this situation that's been going on for too long. I don't understand why you keep wanting more houses. What is it? Answer? You know, no. Okay, that school board, you went around and talked, but this town is not the same town anymore. I mean, yeah, let's do a meat packing plant. Yeah, we need wastewater. Yeah, but do we need all these houses? Why do we need I keep hoping the interest rates keep going up and up and up, okay? When I bought my first place, it was 18%. I was pretty dumb back then. I paid it, but it wasn't a big place. It didn't cost a lot then. These houses that are made worse than my mobile home are $300,000. You see where the car went through the one? That's what, 6 months ago? They still haven't even fixed that. Would you want to live in that little place for $300,000 that's made out of cardboard? No, these houses are awful. Not a block home. Just wait. And I'll be back in a little while.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment. I always invite everybody to come back to workshops where we focus on things like roads and how we're going to handle that. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll come back to the board. Did you guys have any last questions?
Questions or rebuttals?
Just questions. All right, I had a motion and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That will move us on to item 7, request to rezone property from agriculture plan development for a project known as Newberry Plaza. This one is quasi-judicial, same projects in front of my quasi-judicial. So we're entering into quasi-judicial procedure. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule we must follow concerns testimony. The substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits will be entered into evidence. Giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. I'm going to ask the attorney at this point to read into the record the ordinance by title only. Madam Attorney.
This is ordinance number 2023-16 LDR 23-07, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the rezoning of approximately 128 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to a petition by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Lane Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from the Agricultural A zoning district to the Plain Development PD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel number 01932-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. At this point, I'm going to ask the clerk if she will swear in applicant, staff, anyone wants to participate, requests in to speak. We can collectively swear you in all at one time. So if you would rise, I appreciate it, Madam Clerk.
Please state your name for the record, and I'll start on my left. And state your name, and then I'll swear.
Jerry Diedenbach, Ryan Thompson. Christopher, I may be for a different item.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin, we need to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are any conversations or transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Coleman?
None.
Commissioner Clark?
I've ridden out there to see the gray property. Doesn't affect anything I'm doing.
Okay. Commissioner Farnsworth?
None.
Commissioner Martin?
I look at the watermelons.
Commissioner Maison?
No.
Okay, I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have nothing as well. I'm now going to explain the order of presentations that we will vote following every quasi-judicial. I think is the only one we got in this meeting. We're going to hear staff overview first, and the applicant has the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then the staff's going to come back and give a report and a recommendation, also with no time limit. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comments. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. Then we'll have cross-examinations. Then members of the decision-making body through the chair may ask questions of the staff, applicant, and the participants. Then we will have final arguments by the applicant and the staff. The city attorney will advise the decision-making bodies applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then the board will deliberate, and after deliberations, a motion will be made to approve, deny, approve with conditions, so forth and so on. So let's start the presentation. Go ahead, staff. Give us our overview. John
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before the board tonight is rezoning from agricultural A to planned development. This is the rezoning component of the planned development future land use amendment you just heard. This presentation will be brief, and I do have a slide in here to stop and ask if the applicant would like to get up and say a few words, but their presentation was rather complete. And for that, this presentation will be pretty brief. So this map here shows city limits, the current urban service area, a few of our special incentive zones, and in red is the subject property. And these two intersecting state roads, which are part of the strategic intermodal system from FDOT. These are regional roads that are used in the city of Newberry. Here is the topographical map of the subject property, the current zoning map, which is agricultural A, the proposed zoning, which is planned development, the request, which is again for 350 single-family dwelling units, and just want to point out the density with this development opposed to the density for the previous development. The previous development, which was known as ARC, American Retirement Communities, was on 289 acres. It was 900 dwelling units, which comes out to about 3.1 dwelling units per acre. This is 128 acres, 350 dwelling units, but it's a reduction down to 2.7 dwelling units per acre. So this is a reduction in intensity from the last development order that was approved for the property. And it's an increase of the non-residential square footage from 70,000 square feet of the previous one up to 150,000 square feet, which is a goal of the commission and the city at the moment to attract more commercial development in the area. With the rezoning package, the development order that has all those conditions that were discussed at the future land use just previously are in actually the zoning package. We did not amend any of the conditions in the zoning, so there's no need to transfer any of that record from the legislative into this quasi-hearing, so this will just proceed. And Jerry or Ryan, do you have anything you would like to add at this time?
Ryan Thompson with CHW. Just based on the competent substantial evidence in our application materials and staff's report in my presentation from the previous item and Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation, I request your motion for recommended approve and transmit to the Department of Economic Opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. And staff does find the petition consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations. Staff does recommend approval of this ordinance on first reading. That completes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Anybody? That will move us right down. Applicant, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? No? Staff, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Members of the decision-making body, you have any other questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Coleman? Oh, I'm sorry, was that? Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner Coleman. And I'll come back to Commissioner Maison.
Is there like, I don't know, it's like 9 phases here, Mr. Mayor, and I mean, is there a point where they have to?
151 houses.
151? Okay, that's cool. I like that. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Maison?
Yeah. So there were like, I think you mentioned a little over 100 houses less than the original development, correct? The retirement ordeal?
Mr. Mayor, there's 1/3 the number of houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about the commercials?
The commercials increased twice as much.
Thank you.
You guys are knocking these questions out of the ballpark. I mean, they're just good. And I shouldn't have cut the commissioner off. His question was, I knew where you were headed. His question was, how many houses can be built before the commercial has to start? The answer to that is they get 151, and then they got to move. They got to show us something on the commercial.
Not only is he a good student, it's almost like he was at the Planning and Zoning Board.
I'll tell you. Okay, so that's going to take us to public comment. Wait, I already did public comment? I'm sorry. See, now you gave me a compliment, and I go all the way back to the beginning. Any other questions? No? Final arguments? No? No? All right. City Attorney, would you please advise decision-making bodies applicable law and factual findings?
You'll need to find competent and substantial evidence for whatever finding you have.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve or deny. I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions on the motion, floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us out of quasi-judicial to our one agenda item tonight. I don't see Jamie Jones here, so I guess Mike is you're gonna come in for him. We're talking about Southwest 30th Avenue road improvements from 46 to 202. We had a resident ask about roads earlier tonight, and so perfect timing let's talk a little bit about a road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we're going to have a conversation about roads, and I'll start by saying that we don't have, in this current year's work plan, we are working on Southwest 15th Avenue as the commission's lead project, and we are working on Railroad Avenue to the extent that we can get anywhere. Right now, we're kind of at impasse with a portion of that project that's really cooled it off. We think we're going to break the impasse and move forward on that in the next few months. But the commission has directed us to spend our time on Southwest 15th Avenue, and we are probably 75% through with the design on the eastern end of 15th Avenue, which is from the cemetery east. And from the cemetery west, the design is complete, and we're working on an agreement with the development that is occurring out there adjacent to it that would result in the construction of that segment of the roadway.
And let me pause you right there, Mike, because when we talk about 15th, there are two sections, right? There's a section that we already own that we are, I can't remember this percentage he just said, 75. The design, and then there's the other segment where we're going to punch 15 through to 337. That part the developer is going to pay for. But when the construction happens, it will happen all at one time. So it won't be that we do our section of 15th and then we wait for the developer. We'll work it out in the agreement ahead of time that once we've got trucks on site, bulldozers on site, we'll do the work, and then and we'll have all those things figured out. So just want to make sure we get that for the public's edification.
And we are working on the agreement because the initial agreement was the development was so far ahead of our design that the developer segment was going first. The western segment would have been constructed first. And but you've seen the economy cool. That project has slowed. It's not stopped, but that project has slowed. Looks like we're going to be in a position to move forward with construction first. And our agreement will be, we'll construct, the developer will reimburse the city for his fair share when he begins development. So that's the project that's in the budget. But what the commission really likes to hear is that when staff attends the State of the City address, and we sit in on other meetings and commissioner comments are out there, we hear the commission talking about when are we going to get started on paving Southwest 30th Avenue. And we don't have Southwest 30th funded, but we know that a lot of that work is going to be done by contractors, consultants that work for us, and that if we can initiate them on the work, that work can be done concurrently while we work on other things. So Assistant City Manager Jamie reached out to one of our consultants that perform a lot of civil work for us, and they provided us with a proposal to get started on what I would call phase one, which is the pre-design work, where we identify the right-of-ways and make sure that we acquire the right-of-ways and the planning activities. So right off the gate, the first thing we discovered is that while the city maintains that road, we maintain it with prescriptive rights, meaning we don't have a deeded parcel of land that has been conveyed to the city. The public has been using that roadway since forever, and state law says that the public is to continue using that roadway for the extent at which it has been improved. So today, it's 35 to 40 foot wide worth of road that the city of Newberry maintains by prescriptive rights, and we can improve that, but we can't make a substantial improvement into a paved road on that because we don't have adequate land rights. Once we improve it with paving, speeds would increase because people will drive faster on a paved road than an unpaved road. We wouldn't have adequate clear zone. The proximity of trees to the right-of-way would just be too close. We don't have adequate land for drainage areas. So we have identified correctly that a very important first step is identifying land rights and the property owners and developing deeds to convey the property to the city in order for us to take on phase two, which would be design, and phase three, which would be construction. And Dallas went looking to see, well, where's the pot of money that we would fund this from this year? And as it turns out, we have sufficient leftover ARPA money that is undesignated. The commission designated how we would spend some of our ARPA funds, but left a portion of those funds undesignated, and Dallas suggested that we propose to the commission tonight that if they want to go ahead and begin the work on Southwest 30th Avenue, that we could use ARPA funds to complete the work. So the proposal from the engineer is to do a detailed survey, topographic survey, which we will need to design a roadway segment, and to help us put together deeds to acquire land rights. Now, I know that in the past, the commission has talked about to staff, would it be a good first step to chip seal roads? We have some chip seal roads in our inventory, and staff's response has been very consistent that chip seal it's an improvement over an unpaved road, but it isn't a step into a paved road. So if the commission wants to chip seal, then that has a useful place in our roads inventory, but chip sealing is not the step just before paving. We could chip seal the road without doing the deed work, the survey work, and acquiring the land rights, but this road, Southwest 30th and Southwest 15th like it, and Southwest 46th like it, were all identified years ago by the county to be collector highways. The county identified them correctly. They will be perfect collector highways once the traffic demands are such that we do that. So staff believes that acquiring land rights now is a necessary first step, even if after we acquire the land rights, the commission says we're going to chip seal it and wait 10 years before we go to the expense of a paving project. Staff estimates the paving project to be a little over $5 million, so it's not inexpensive. And as the commission knows, from all of the projects that we've been doing, the cost of paving is going up. So even at an expensive $5.5 million, it won't be any cheaper a decade from now if that's what the commission elects to do. So staff And we know that the commission prefers to think of road projects very comprehensively. 20 projects at one time, let's rank them. And so this is, well, Mike, where did it come from? And staff's answer to that is, well, the commission's not committing to 5.5 million roads. What they're really committing to is doing the survey work and the land rights work for a road that eventually will be a collector street for Newberry. There's no doubt on that. So staff feels like there's no doubt that this is a good investment, that it'll stand the test of time for when the commission does decide they want to perform this work. So we've identified the roadway segment there. It's a little over 13,000, almost 14,000 feet or 2.6 miles. And we've identified the property owners, and that is on the north side, A through V, and on the south side, 1 through 16. All told, a lot of those are the same property owners. All told, there's 22 property owners along that stretch of roadway there. Once we hit 202, it becomes a county road. It's already paved. It's at the end of its life. So I think that if the commission eventually says pave the street, that we're going to be negotiating with county staff to resurface 202 east of here all the way to Southwest 170th, and then we would propose to the county that they convey it to us upon completion of a paving project so that their eastern segment matches our western segment in terms of look and feel of the highway and level of improvement. So the proposal that we received was for a little over $100,000 and $125,000. We have a funding source that is dedicated for this type of project that is currently undesignated, and so staff recommends that that the commission authorize that we pursue with this phase 1 work for Southwest 30th Avenue roadway improvements. If not, we're a month and a half away from the summer budget season, and we'll have lots of discussion then about unpaved road segments and how we should address them best as we go through the summer preparing next year's budget. Mr. Mayor, I'm available for any questions the commission has.
Okay. First, I want to say to our team, great job on getting thrown a curveball, because we threw 30th at you when Seaboard Drive kind of stalled out.
Correct.
We really do want to invest in our infrastructure. I agree with you that 30th is going to be a paved road eventually, one way or the other, someday or another. So we have the funding source. I know that we have some sense of urgency on paving roads. Do we want to get started with a step that will be necessary for pretty much any future? Or do we want to wait until we get into the budget cycle and we can have along Southwest 30th Avenue, for those of you who don't know, because I know it's hard to keep up with all the different workshops, but this commission has identified a ranking of different roads and different projects that we want to work at. 30th has always been in the kind of the top 5 mix. I don't need a motion just yet. If you have questions about the road, Commissioner Clark.
So Mike, regardless, this being a collect road identified by the county and by the city one day.
Correct.
Not necessarily now, but the money spent now, if we even did it, and we didn't pave it.
Correct.
And we just chip sealed it to give us 10 years of life.
Correct.
We could still use this for the future.
Absolutely.
To when it does get punched through at some time that the growth or the new subdivision that's already been platted for 20 years comes on board,
Correct.
He can do it.
Correct. And Mr. Mayor, we recommend that, we've identified the property owners. With the survey, we would then attempt to obtain all the land rights. It's our belief that the property owners out there would be willing to convey sufficient land for us to have a 60 to 70 foot wide right-of-way that should handle improved surface, clear zone, and stormwater. And we'll chip seal within that now, and if that's the decision. And whenever the commission decides, whether it's now or 10 years from now, to pave it, we won't have to go through any of that effort. We'll go straight to design for paving and paving.
Go ahead. One more, and because I know that when we speak of the money that we're looking at to do this design, and to fulfill the whole pavement through the other end is worse than any dirt road that the city of Newberry owns. So there should be some sort of agreement to get the other end where it ain't a cattle car place, but my point is, we don't need to tear it all out now.
Correct.
Until it becomes the housing market or something booms to make it happen.
That's a great point. And once the commission, I mean, the county commission and their staff are aware that we're initiating this preliminary work on the project, that's an opportune time to have that discussion. We have so many roads in our inventory that would be candidates, that we can't pre-negotiate every one of those segments with them today. Once it's identified and a real project moving on our end, we would initiate conversations with them.
The caveat, I kind of lost my train of thought, because the money that you just mentioned, what would be the cost difference in probably getting our design, even though we're gonna spend $125,000, but what about putting chip seal on the ground? What would the cost difference be between that and paving it?
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be significantly different. We would estimate the chip seal to be $200,000 a mile, so probably $600,000 to chip seal, $5.5 million to pave.
So we got other roads that are already in the collector series, that we could use that other $4 million, $4.5 million to help get another road done instead of doing it all on the 2.6 miles.
Potentially. And Mr. Mayor, that brings up a point that, and please accept my apologies for not making this point to the commission earlier. Of those historic developments that were approved in the 2005 to 2010 era, there is one that is approved for 1,000 homes on Southwest 30th, and that property, that development, through its development order, is required to pave 30th from State Road 45 to its eastern boundary. And so if the commission directs this work and gives us the time frame on which they expect to pave the road, if the commission is planning to pave the road before the development, we would immediately move into an agreement with that developer that they reimburse us for the segment of road that they have already committed to whenever they pull their first building permit. And we don't anticipate that would be a problem for that developer. I think that that developer would love that deal if we're willing to pave it and pay them, invoice them once they start moving their development forward.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I'm sure that's the year I wasn't on the commission. So Mike, currently we have like $120,000 to commit towards this project. That's what I'm hearing.
We have in excess of that in unallocated ARPA funds.
And that money is just going to be doing a survey, but if there's an acquisition of property, how much would that cost us?
At present, I mean, if we get into paying for the land, then we would typically go out and get appraisals for each parcel of land. The belief, though, is that for the value of the improvement, we get enough complaints about unpaved roads in Newberry, and our code says you can't build structures within 75 foot of the section line, or something about that. You can't build structures in there anticipating that this is going to become this collector highway. So our expectation is for this type of an ask that the property owners will convey the property in exchange for the paved road, which is exactly what we did with the property owners on Southwest 15th Avenue, that western segment that the mayor was referring to earlier. We didn't pay for that land. They conveyed it to the city for the improvement that's going to come upon that land.
If we chip seal that road, there won't be any kind of improvement as far as drainage is concerned, or that kind of thing?
Mr. Mayor, the chip sealing process does not require us to go through the same type of drainage improvement that a road paving project does. We would chip seal it and ensure that the swales that are there today are sufficient, and that would be the extent of our work.
Personally, I would prefer not to waste money chip sealing it if we're going to redo it in another 5-10 years. I prefer to go ahead and pave the road and get it done correctly and get that out of the way. But then if that development does actually come on board, they can pay for their portion of that.
I want to remind the commission that we don't have to make that decision tonight. The step that's in front of us tonight would have to happen kind of no matter what. I do want to have these conversations. It's good to know where we are, but I just want to make sure we don't get too far off into chip seal pavement, because tonight is, do we want to go through, one of the things that I hear from our residents and from you guys is, why are projects taking so long? Well, here we have the opportunity to work through the property acquisition, the easement, kind of get that part done. Then you guys can debate chip seal paved, and that first step is out of the way.
Right, but I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, generally speaking, if we can pave it, I think it's always better to pave it, right? Was that all your questions,
Yeah, I'm
Commissioner
done.
Farnsworth? Anybody else? I have a couple myself, but Commissioner Martin?
This doesn't rise to the level of too much of a priority for me. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather see if there were some other things that we could potentially spend that money on that would have a little bit more of an immediate impact. If we have any concerns about growth, that's a potential catalyst to start stimulating a lot more of that. Not that that's a concern here for my decision, but it's 22 property owners. Doesn't really get a whole lot of use right now. It's just not as much of a priority for me. I understand what you're saying. Your points are well taken.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I do. Is there much agriculture going on in that area? Is it just single-family residence, or is it?
It is primarily an agricultural used road. The Hodges have lots of property fronting it. I'd say that of the property on either side, I'd say it's primarily used for agriculture. It's a roadway segment that sees a daily average trip count of in the 200 range. We've done them within the last 2 years, so it's not a super used road, but it is a section line road. It gets fair enough amount of use, one that staff feels comfortable with moving it forward now.
Yeah.
There are other roads in inventory that we would recommend against, just because we don't think they're going to transition into something that provides that greater benefit down the road. This is definitely a road that will transition into a well-used collector street to move traffic between us and the eastern part of the county as Newberry grows.
There'll be a lot of farm equipment going down that road, I'm assuming.
A fair amount.
Commissioner Coleman?
Not really, just buses going 200 miles an hour. Watermelon buses. I'm kind of a little confused here. Let's say that we obtain all the property here, and if we wanted to chip and seal it, how far off are we going to be here? I mean, what kind of time frame if we were to just go ahead and
chip and seal?
Yeah.
6 months for the property acquisition?
Yes, we'd be teed up to begin an improvement project with October's fiscal year beginning.
And is there a major transition when you, let's say a year or 2 years from now, we decide, okay, it's time to pave it? Is that a big thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're starting over. We'll go back to, we'll have the land rights in hand if the commission approves this.
right,
It'll start over where we're having to design conveyance facilities for stormwater, perhaps a retention area or two. And then, the detail will be pretty straightforward. It'll be a standard detail, but it'll be for the entire length of the road. So it will probably take us, 6 to 9 months to get, construction, plans ready for us to do that. If the commission says next year, design it, Mike, then we'll tell you that we can start construction the following year.
and we have, with this new tax, I mean,
The county infrastructure tax.
yeah. Well, I guess, at this point, if it was chip and seal, there's a lot of people going out of, Countryway. I'd say a lot of the area here on the south side of town, instead of going all the way to Archer, they could virtually, I mean, there's the Shans, the North Florida people that work and stuff. I'm for, if we could chip and seal it, it would be well used.
And again, tonight, we're just thinking
I
about
know,
it.
but everybody else is giving.
I know it.
So I'm
I
gonna
keep
give
trying.
I was gonna hold off here, but no, I think that it's be very beneficial that we get this at least chip and seal. And I mean, the cost comparatively, if you're talking a 10-year, if it'll last 10 years. So.
Okay.
That's where I'm at, so that's all I got.
Any other questions? Mike, while we're doing this, if the commission moves forward with it, I know that I'm thinking about the juncture of 27 and 30th. And that slight angle, I know FDOT really dislikes those. I know that is a cause of some accidents that I'm having to turn. I'm not seeing the peripheral. If it's possible, I'd like our conversation to see about straightening that out. It may not be possible, but while we're working through these conversations, I think that should be part of the conversation. Let's see if we can bend the road and straighten it up somehow, some way. So that's just on your radar wish list if we can straighten that out.
46.
What did I say, 45? No. Oh, yeah, 46, same
46
thing.
is even worse.
And when Sandia Park comes in, they have a plan to straighten that, at least the western part out. I'm not sure about the other side. I am under the impression that the problem with the current 15th on the eastern side of 27 is that the county did not do the land acquisition and did not get the water where it would go off the road. So now when it rains and it floods, that water gets up under, and that's what creates all of the issues, the potholes. So I think that, not to disagree with you, but I think that if we chip seal it, we still need the study that we're talking about so that we know exactly where, because we're still going to need some place for the water to go. So there probably will be some land acquisition involved with this, or have you and Jamie been on the same page and we don't need anything? I guess my question is, I still think that what we're talking about tonight is valuable, whether the commission decides to chip seal it or pave it in the future. We will, I believe, still need somewhere for that, not as much as pavement, but somewhere for that water to go.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, that's a very astute point. I mean, typically on a roadway segment like this, at least half of the stormwater will be in roadside swales. But y'all have all been down 30th. It has some change in grade. The low points are going to accumulate more stormwater, and we anticipate that we'll be trying to obtain property to accommodate that stormwater, and we can identify that under the scope of this proposal that we received from CHW.
And my last question is more of a, just speak to us a little bit about how impact fees would affect this project. We've got a developer's agreement with a developer that hasn't moved forward, but we've already got that agreement. if we pave the road ahead of time, and then someone comes in to Commissioner Martin's point, someone comes in and says, well, now it's a paved road, I want to put a development here. Are we able to pay that money and then do a pioneering agreement that says if a developer comes in, you will still be responsible, or will the impact fees then take that responsibility because they'll be paying impact fees and that would be used to then pay to pave the road?
Mr. Mayor, it's closer to the latter.
Okay.
So what we have been doing with impact fees or with roads is that if the road that is being improved is integral to your development, you don't get impact fee credits. If it's beyond your development, you would. So if we say that proposed development is going to start at H, the property H, and underneath it is 4, then the city would say that the piece from H to L is integral to the department, and you got to reimburse us full cost for that. He's also supposed to pave from A to H. That's to get to the site. That's off, is not integral to his development, and we would say you don't have to reimburse us for that, but your impact fees will reimburse us for that. So that's how, what we've been talking about with all of these developers as to how impact fees will work. That's how that agreement would be structured.
So in a way, you would say, and we haven't decided on impact fees, but if the commission were to pave the road in advance, the impact fee would negate the need for these pioneering agreements, because that's the whole point of an impact fee, is that new development helps pay for the infrastructure that is needed for the new development. Right? Commissioner Coleman?
Where I see it, I think it's imperative that we do something now, because here's the deal. People that are leaving the new subdivision, they now will have a choice to take a left and go to 30th and get out of here, because right now with school and all that stuff in the mornings, it's opening it up for another avenue to at least get to 170th.
Yeah.
That's my big deal.
I live on the other end of 30th, but I have noticed the uptick in traffic on 337. Yeah. And if there was a paved road there, I believe that those people would cut straight through down 30th and then go out 30th. They wouldn't get to Newberry Road. And a lot of what I'm hearing is that, right now, your options are so limited. You said it yourself, it's Newberry Road or I go to Archer, right? Mm-hmm. So this opens up another corridor. So you don't have to sell me on the road. It's the question of timing and when does it happen and how does it happen and do you chip seal it now or pave it later? But again, in any of those variations, the step that's in front of you tonight, I think has to happen. If you guys want to take it now, if you want to wait till budget season, you're talking about a matter of a couple of months. But I know the sense of urgency that you guys have to pave roads, to address that infrastructure. And interestingly, we have the opportunity to actually help put the infrastructure in ahead of time. I get that all the time. You guys approved the development and you didn't have, we know that is going to be an area that's going to be a corridor. Right. We have the opportunity to start thinking about it ahead of time, and we have the funding to at least take this step right now. So I kind of want it, we got 2 other meetings tonight, so I kind of want to pull us to Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Mayor, and we've all talked about it, I think, and to the staff's point, this was actually thrown into the mix, and I think it took off like wildfire from the state of the city, and it's dropped a bombshell. But we have the money now, so as far as I'm concerned, it ain't taken away from the budget. We ain't taken away from nothing that the staff had planned or anything that we had planned for a capital improvement or anything. So as far as me, I'm in to get it started. We're going to do it today, or we're going to do it 10 years from now.
Okay, do we need a motion? We're just directing staff to, I guess we do, because we're talking about real dollars. So I need that in the form of a motion. The motion is to direct staff to
issue a purchase order to get the preliminary engineering work done.
$125,000?
Yes.
Right? Is that your motion, Commissioner Clark?
If I need to state it that way, absolutely.
Okay, I have a motion.
Yes.
And from Commissioner Clark, I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? This is the first step, has to happen, whether the chip seal or paved, whether it happens now, or whether it happens 10 years from now. This step is a necessary step for a future improvement at some point in time. Nothing left, public comment on the motion on the floor.
Joy Glanzer. It's been on the books 15 years, not 20. And I think it's a good idea to do the land acquisition at this time. That's got to be done no matter what. I mean, it might be penny wise and pound foolish, though, to chip seal now, because hypothetically, even though it's been on the books 15 years, there may be some movement. And if that road would be paved in, say, 2 years, your $600,000 will just be wasted. They'll have to pull it up, and the cost of doing that is going to add to the development costs. So we've gone this long. I mean, it's going to take 9 months to get the land acquisition, so maybe we can wait another year and a half. If it doesn't happen then, if the money's still there, you can chip seal, but there might be movement, and then we'd be wasting money. So thanks.
Thank you. Excellent point. Other public comment on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing none, come back for roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman? Aye. Commissioner Clark? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth? Aye. Commissioner Martin? No. Commissioner Mazon? Aye. Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. That takes us to comments, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just kind of recap. The city held its 5th or 6th annual West Fest. I can't remember over the weekend, and clearly the best one ever. Is definitely the most well-attended event, and I got a lot of feedback throughout the day, and I didn't get any negative feedback. We had great music, we had great bands, we had great food trucks. No one complained that it went too late or that it was too loud. So just an all-around fantastic event. Really want to heap lots of praise on staff. They put a good 4 months into planning the event and worked all day on Friday and then reported at 7 a.m. Saturday, day of event, and the last employee went home at 1:30 that night. That was a long day for our team, but they did an outstanding job, and I just couldn't commend them enough. Mr. Mayor, our platinum sponsor was the City of Newberry, so thanks to the commission for giving us the latitude to run these types of events. I'd also like to thank our gold sponsor, the Alachua County Visit Gainesville, Newberry Area Chamber of Commerce, and Waste Pro. So I thought it was a fantastic event. I appreciate all of that support, all of you showing up, and staff was very encouraged by it and is planning the next annual West Fest event already. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. And I'll add to it, I thought West Fest was fantastic this year. The weather was nice, so great job. Please pass all that along to your team that did all that work, because I saw how much they worked, and we appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, do you have anything?
Nothing from us.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I would just like to say again, congratulations to our 2023 elected officials, and I'm glad that we had a good election. No election is a good election season. So that would be it for me.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It seems like a lifetime ago we had that swearing-in ceremony. That's the first meeting of the night. Commissioner Coleman, you got any comments tonight?
I don't tonight, believe it or not.
All right. Commissioner Clark?
I was at West Fest, as Mike said and mentioned. I think kudos to the staff and everybody. The place looked outstanding. I even had a couple compliments on it while I was sitting there with some folks, and it was jam up. And other than that, I appreciate what everybody does, and God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, Commissioner Coleman touched on a little earlier, but the food from the fire department that we got was absolutely superb. Whoever did those baked beans, man, they need to can it. They need to can them things and put them in the new Publix. Is that who did it? They did a good. They were really good. And but the gentleman from the fire department, I think he ended up doing like 10 Boston butts for the.
140 plates we sold.
Yeah, so it was very nice, and appreciate all the things that the fire department and the opioid task force has done.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Commissioner Barton?
I'll save my time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Maison?
I'm gonna be real quick. Nah, the food was great. At West Fest, those food trucks were good too. There were nice selections, very nice selections, and the Boston butts were good. And I'll keep it quick. What do you call a train that's cargo and bubblegum? Choo-choo train.
I just want to say thank you to the fire department. They turned the hoses on Saturday before West Fest at the opioid task force and Barbie. They let the kids spray. We had a great time. Thank you guys for coming and supporting. Both our fire department is doing some great things, and the task force is doing some great things. Again, we already said thank you to West Fest, but it really was a nice event. It's just getting better and better every year. The school board, we touched on a little bit earlier. The school board is having a series of listening sessions to talk about rezoning. They don't push out a lot of information, but they are willing to receive a lot of information. The next one is on May 10th. It's going to be at Santa Fe High School in the city of Alachua. So if you can attend those and let the school board hear your voice about what your goals are for after this rezoning process, I know that they would appreciate it. I'm going to save the time since we also have 2 more meetings after this, and I know everybody in the audience is waiting for those meetings. So public comment. If you waited here for public comment, now is your opportunity. Come on down. 5:30.
Damn right. Okay. Last week I was informed that we no longer have a grader. Kevin was, they said he resigned himself, but he did not. He worked 7.5 years here in the city of Newberry. He's done an excellent job taking care of our roads, trees, 1 tree down, he's there like that, flinging it, slinging it. Picked up everything. He's been doing this forever. I don't know what the issues were. I do know what they were. They told him he worked his men too hard. Well, you know what? I work at Publix. I'm 69 years old. I go out and get 5 carts for an hour and a half. The kids, oh my God, I can't do that. I don't feel good. So they don't do it. No, get out there and work, okay? And he worked. These new ones, nah, they don't want to work. So now when you call the city to say, gee, Watermelon Pond, you can't even drive down it without losing your teeth. You know what we were answered? I'm sorry, we don't have a grader. How about bringing the blocks back? We don't have anybody available that can do that. So I'm thinking all weekend, gee, I'm surely glad a storm isn't coming through here where they're gonna block my road. I have a gentleman down the road that's had double lung transplants, medical problems all down the road. So if a tree falls, what happens? Who's gonna come pick it up? Jamie won't answer, you know. Do you have an ad stating, gee, we're looking for someone who's qualified to take tons and tons of rock, put on the road, level it out, get it adjusted. We've had the best roads we've ever had. You don't see me complaining. You don't see me down here at all. But I'm here tonight because I'm really disappointed in this town, the way they treat employees. It's not just him. Amy was here for 20 years. One day she's here, one day she's gone. Nobody talks about it. My friend Karen, same thing. I can name many employees that have come and gone from this place. When Connie was in charge of streets and roads, she sat in a desk and she had people that got out there and worked for her. Kevin was running all these people and working 24/7 out there. If the machine broke, he fixed it. These kids can't run mowers. They break them. He fixed them. They miss all these places. Go back and fix it. The town has never looked better. I'm really, really disappointed that you would let someone like that, and I even talked to Jamie a month ago when they put a new grader out there for 1 day, which he's not with Streets and Roads anymore, because I guess you don't have anybody with Streets and Roads. Oh, no, everything's good. I said, please do not piss off Kevin. He's the best thing we've had here. I've been out here 22 years, and I spent half my life down here going, come on, people, can't you get this right? We had it right. But no. I know he hurt somebody's feelings, and he wanted to step down. So they're like, okay. He resigned himself. He didn't sign any papers to resign himself. So, in other words, he was fired. And I really hope he gets an attorney. I'm just really disappointed in this town. So can you tell me who's going to take care of this if a tree falls tonight?
We'll be on it.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm disappointed. I feel like this is turning into Alachua County, not the city of Newberry I knew 22 years ago.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment?
Hello, I'm Jeff Holcomb. I'm hoping today to talk about the solar farm that's coming to town. It's not on the agenda tonight, obviously. Hopefully it will be for a future meeting. But I did just want to say, last month I made some comments about it, and it was stated that we could not actually increase the buffer zone as required by Florida Senate Bill 896. And if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to read some of the ordinance just so we're all on the same page. And section 163-3205 says, a solar facility shall be permitted use in all agricultural land use categories in local government comprehensive plan and must comply with the setback and landscape buffer area criteria for other similar uses in an agricultural district. And it goes on to say in part 4, such requirements may not exceed the requirements for similar uses involving construction of other facilities in ag areas. However, if we look at Newberry City Ordinance, their current ordinance, Appendix B, Article 4, Section 4.4.2, it states permitted principal uses of structures. All agricultural activities are permitted, provided that no structure used for housing of animals or commercial feedlot operation be located within 300 feet of any lot line. And then goes on to say, no building used for the activity shall be located for the processing, storage, and sale of agricultural products shall be located within 300 feet. Yet in Newberry City Ordinance regarding solar facilities, it says supporting buildings to support the operation of the electrical generating facility. Such building shall provide a minimum front yard of 30 feet, minimum side yard of 15 feet, minimum rear yard of 25 feet. So my point here is it would stand to reason that Newberry City Ordinance around the supporting buildings for a solar facility would have the same minimum 30-foot buffer zone as required for agricultural facilities, if that's how we're deeming that solar is allowed on agricultural zoned land. And my one further point is in the city ordinance regarding solar panels, it says that solar panels can have a maximum height of 15 feet. So it's been stated previously that in the eyes of zoning, solar panels are considered to be the same as a crop. That's why they're called solar farms. But I would actually argue that solar panels, they're permanently affixed to the ground, either a stake-driven post into the ground or a concrete base. They're going to remain in place for 25 years. They can stand at a height of up to 15 feet. To me, this sounds more like a structure or a building than a crop. And as such, and it's also directly involved in the processing, storage, and sale of an agricultural product, which we are calling solar energy, if that's an agricultural product. So my point being that I think that we would actually qualify for a 300-foot setback here when we're talking about increasing the zoning requirements for solar panels. So just something to consider. I know that that's coming up. Hopefully in a few weeks, we're going to be talking about the ordinance around solar panels. So something I'd just like the mayor and the commission to take into consideration. So I appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Brian, do you need that ordinance? Do you have that ordinance that he's referring to? Okay, thank you. Other public comment?
Hello. My name is Dr. Stephanie Gazda. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My comments are also in regards to the solar power plant that is planned for just south of Southwest 46th Ave, which is just outside the urban services area in Newberry. There are multiple areas of concern regarding solar power plants, including the fact that the heat from one can be felt up to 900 feet away. But instead of talking about that, I want to talk about multiple studies, including a peer-reviewed article that was just published in April of this year, that state that property values decrease significantly for owners near solar power plants. There is an average drop of 2.3% within a quarter mile of a plant. And after that, 6 years, that drop actually increases up to 6% of loss of property values. If you look at furthermore, if you look at the drop in house values by land type, the statistically significant drop is when the plant is located on agricultural land, not when it's on a brown field or mixed use, for example. So what does this mean? It means that the value of homes within a quarter mile of a plant will drop, and it will drop much more if the plant is on agricultural land. So I went to the Alachua County Property Appraiser's office and I collected the publicly available data on the plots of lands that directly abut the solar power plant property. So this would be within the quarter mile. According to the website, the market value of all of these properties combined is about just $23.6 million. A 6% loss would be a decrease of $1.4 million in value. One suggestion from the literature is to mitigate the loss of property values near the solar power plants is to have a large setback with a significant vegetative buffer. States with smaller setbacks, so if they had under 100 feet, had higher drops in property values than states with larger setbacks. And that's wanted to give that information. And I will send everyone an email with those two PDFs after this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Other public comment? Come on down, Commissioner.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My compliments on running an efficient and solution-oriented meeting. I'm impressed. Gentlemen, thank you for letting me speak, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Weitz. I am a current City Commissioner in High Springs. And I come to talk to you about our current solar plant that has just finished construction. And I would like to invite any of you who would like to come and see it to come see it. It's not been commissioned yet. And unfortunately, when I came on the commission, I was a little too green to know just how much of a fit I should pitch to have us get an ordinance together. And I applaud all of you for doing this in advance. We have nominally a 60-foot setback just because that's how it worked out. I've sat on the back porches of the people who live right next to that solar power plant. This is an industrial use. This is no longer agricultural use. You are generating power. And when they talk about it being green energy, it's green, but it's making money. It's making a lot of money for the power companies. I have no problem with them making money, but I know this is an FP&L-owned facility. Ours is a Duke-owned facility. If you look at the stock value of Duke Energy, it's gone through the roof since they started planting large-scale solar power plants. Would that I had. Duke Energy promised they were going to plant a vegetative buffer. They haven't planted a thing. And we don't have the teeth to make them plant it because we don't have an ordinance.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
We don't have an ordinance.
So you're, okay. So I'm just,
We knew it was coming for a year, and we didn't put an ordinance together because I was way too ignorant to push for it. I know better now, so that's why I'm coming to you all now in advance. These folks here, they're the ones that need you. FP&L is going to build it. It's permitted by right. You have no right to say no. But boy, you could give them a real setback. There's some agricultural land. I know there's a house across the street from the Eastman Newberry sports complex. There's a house there that's surrounded by planted crops on 3 sides. Well, some of the folks, I haven't seen a site plan for what's proposed here, but some of these folks could be surrounded by solar panels on more than one side of their property. And right now they're looking out at green agricultural land. This is no longer agricultural use. Now, once it's built, it's a fairly passive neighbor. You know, it's pretty quiet, but I would encourage you to consider requiring in your ordinance them to plant a vegetative buffer against any residential property before construction starts so that it can grow while they're building. I would encourage you to consider a 300-foot setback for any solar panels. I will take you to ours, and I can show you what these folks are looking at now. And it used to be beautiful cow pasture, and now it is abysmal. I would also encourage you to consider having at least a minimum setback of 500 feet from the property line for an inverter. If you can tour a solar power plant, they're not going to let you tour it at high noon. They're going to say, sure, come on at 5 o'clock, no problem, but we'll take you around the facility. It's beautiful. Go at high noon if you can, because the inverters can get loud. So in terms of noise for these folks that are going to live close to it, a design engineer, if you tell them, well, you probably couldn't design that. I've never seen an engineer say, I can't do something. So if you tell them the inverters have to be 500 feet from the property line, they can do it. It may or may not make it more difficult for them, but they can do it. It's worth it for these guys here. And 74.9 megawatts, that's kind of a strange number, isn't it? Well, at 75 megawatts, this power plant becomes federal. They have to be financially transparent. They have to do all kinds of things. So all of these plants are 74.9 megawatts because they don't have to disclose anything in terms of operations. So Mayor Marlowe, Commissioner Martin know how to reach me. You can email me, and I would encourage you, if you would like to see what it looks like, you'll see what 60 feet looks like, and it's not even close to enough. So thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you letting me talk.
Thank you for coming.
It's on 2741 in the back of High Springs Estates. We put a wastewater treatment plant on their southern border, and now we put a power plant on their western border. So 687 acres. So please, I'd be happy to take you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? Come on down. You waited this long. Might as well.
I apologize ahead of time. Public speaking is not my thing, so I'll probably.
You're among friends. Yeah.
Okay, so unlike a lot of the people who are here, I actually don't have a vote in this town because my property line is almost 50 yards away from the voting line. But yet, the end of my driveway dumps into the solar field. And I'm also in that circle where I won't get notified about what's happening unless I show up to these meetings or a kind neighbor puts a flyer in my mailbox. And that's how we found out. My husband and I, we grew up in Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania. My family has owned a family farm that's been passed down, through generations with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. Like the farmers who spoke earlier, I basically grew up on a farm. We raised hogs, we grew hay, I threw hay bales, I lifted bags of feed. As a kid, I get it. I know what farmland is. My husband and I moved to Florida in 2000, and I think it was 2001, for him to attend law school at UF, and we stayed. My dream had always been to have a place kind of like home, and ironically enough, it's Newville, Pennsylvania, and we now live in Newberry. One red light, and I wanted a log cabin. He found me a log cabin on 10 acres of land that's going to dump into the solar field. I love going outside to look at the bats at night. Unbelievable amounts of wildlife go through our yards. My kids are raised here. We've been fortunate to travel to just about every national park in this country. We drive, so we visit all the lands. We go through those towns. We visit with the people. We've seen the windmills. We've seen the hydro plants. We've seen the solar farms. There aren't homes around them. They're not in little small towns. Easter Sunday, my husband and I drove to Orlando to visit the two sister solar farms for this particular plant. There are no homes around them. There are divided highways, tall chain link fences, barbed wire, no vegetation, no buffers. There was a honeybee farm next to one of them. I called just to find out, hey, have you had any issues with the bees? Because bees are pollinators for agricultural and farmlands. She was very nice. She was happy to speak with me until I mentioned solar farms. She said no and hung up on me. She didn't want to talk about it. To me, that's a telling sign. And You can take what I say, or you can leave it. My vote doesn't count, obviously, because I don't have one, and I live off of 46th Avenue. I know how horrible it is, and we still can't get that one paved. But I'm not against solar. I'm a tree hugger. I love the environment. I know it's a good thing, but this is not a good thing for this area. You guys sat here for over an hour talking about how agricultural land is our heritage, but yet we're getting sold out. I mean, my dad, when he had those farmlands, he actually filed for bankruptcy because we couldn't keep it running, and instead of selling it to a developer, he worked with the state to turn it into game lands because he knew it wasn't right. That's all we're asking. I mean, I don't think you guys can stop this because I think you're too far down that hole, but listen to these guys. This is where they live, and last year, you wrote a very long post on Facebook about how important it is to maintain family farms. That's all they're trying to do. That's all I want to do. My kids are still going to be in school for another 4 or 5 years, and we've made a decision that we're not leaving until they graduate. I don't want them growing up with Gainesville and Orlando coming to their backyard. So, sorry, that's, I told you, shaking, but
You did great.
That's it.
Yep. Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? Other public comment? Seeing none, just for, because we've had 3 on that, and for the commission's edification, remember that you guys have asked for that ordinance to come back. You asked specifically for vegetative buffer, which makes it very different than what happened in High Springs. They don't have an ordinance. That ordinance doesn't speak to vegetative buffer. Once it's built, then you have to go to Duke and ask. You can't tell. So if it's in our ordinance, they will have to do it. There won't be a question about that. So the language that Commissioner Farnsworth asked for specifically spoke to line of sight, specifically spoke to deciduous, right? We haven't had that language yet, but we will. And to the comment about the family farms, man, it's old family farmers in the city of Newberry that sold that land. That and that's exactly what we're trying to do, is help those family farms be profitable so that they don't. So this is one of those examples of families that have been here for years and are not making money in ag and are choosing of their own volition. It's not the city doing it. We're not twisting anybody's arm. So we will talk about that ordinance. We will speak to those things. I take Mr. Holcomb's argument. We'll look at that as well. At this point, we have our own team specifically saying there are state regulations about how extreme the regulations can be compared to the regulations around it. Mr. Hogan, very articulate. He may be right. That's why we have an attorney. That's why we have a team that'll evaluate whether he is right. If he's right, well, then we'll bring that to you guys. You guys can think about increasing it. But I would also remind you that you're already considering about increasing it. The question is, 15 feet to 20, 25 feet, you can put it in the vegetative. That's not a problem. The question is whether you can do this by acreage or whether you can take it from 15 feet to 300 feet and whether or not legally that would be considered extreme. But we'll have an agenda item. Our team will present that information to you guys, and we won't have to worry about who is right and who's interpreting it, because then at that point we will have analyzed the question and we'll be able to tell you guys. But right now the effort is, and I didn't hear anybody say against it, that we want that 15-foot to be vegetative for sure. We've already talked about increasing it around that line of sight to 20. We've got studies that show 15-foot of vegetative buffer. Your eye can't see through that. But if we can get it to 20, 25 feet, right, those will all be considerations for you guys, as we move forward. Okay, so any other public comment on? Seeing none, we've got another meeting right after this one. This meeting is adjourned, and Board of Adjustment is called into session. One at a time gets to go to pee. All right, Mark is going to wait. Okay. All right, so this is the Board of Adjustment meeting. We're going to go ahead and call it to order at 10:03. Can I have a motion to approve the Board of Adjustment meeting? Motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the motion floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Coleman having stepped out. First item is the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Commissioner Martin for approval, second by Commissioner Maison. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously, again with Commissioner Coleman out. First item on the agenda, item number 2, is request for a site and development plan for Zipline Park known as Zipline at Hale Quarry. I'm challenging anybody to be the first ride. We're going to race. Now, this is a quasi-judicial. I'm going to enter into the quasi-judicial. You want to race, Jenny? I'll take you. I'll take you right now.
But my aunt, the nun, has already reserved.
You think I'm afraid of a nun? Me and the nun, we're going to go at it. We're going to go. We're in a quasi-judicial. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and will become a judicial board, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. Primary rule must follow concerning testimony. The substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony taken under oath, everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. Giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. I'm going to ask the city attorney to please read into the record the resolution at this point.
This is Resolution 2023-15 SDP 2022-15, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site and development plan for a zipline park entitled Zipline at Hale Quarry within an agricultural A zoning district pursuant to Section 1412 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, located at 3925 Northwest County Road 235, parcel number 01861-001-000, consisting of approximately 70 acres lying within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to ask the clerk if you will swear in. I know we had some people that swore in earlier, but that was a different meeting. So if you could rise and swear in for this one, Madam Clerk.
Going to start to my left hand. Please say your name for the record, and then when you're finished, we will start the swearing.
John Paul Perez.
Mike Newman. Carl Spain. Christopher DeMere.
Do you hereby swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We need to disclose any ex parte communications, disclose whether a member has physically inspected the property, ex parte communications, or any conversation or transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Cole.
None.
Commissioner Clark.
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
I saw this property being used.
Did you jump off the cliff? You refuse to answer. That's good. Plead the fifth. Commissioner Martin.
I would only disclose that I had talked with Mr. Spain about this probably, I bet it might have been 3 years ago at this point. And I'm embarrassed to say that we probably haven't talked about anything in 2 years, at least.
Yeah. Nothing that would influence your decision tonight? Commissioner Maison? I'm a non-voting mayor, but neither have I. I'm going to explain the order of presentation we're going to follow for the quasi-judicial item for us. We're going to hear from the staff overview, then the applicant has the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then staff will give the report and the recommendation. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervening status. That's going to move us right to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant cross-examine, staff cross-examine, members to make body through the chair can ask questions of the staff or the applicant. We'll hear final arguments, then the city attorney will advise the decision-making bodies to put the law and facts and findings must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we'll deliberate. After deliberation, we'll have a motion. Give us that overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's impressive. John Paul Perez, City of Newberry, Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you is the zip line at Hale Quarry on 70 acres. This is related to a special exception that was approved previously by the Board of Adjustment last year. The subject property is generally located south of Northwest 46th Ave on County Road 235, an old lime rock mining pit. The request tonight is for a zipline park site plan approval. The special exception of the use has already been approved and has its own conditions attached to the use. And that completes the overview. I'm gonna turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. And, oh, do we have the applicant presentation?
Yes.
These are all mine at the moment. It may be at the end. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. And then I'll complete my presentation thereafter and provide findings and recommend motion.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Chris Gamir. I'm the engineer of record for the project. I've assured all of the technical compliances with the development, showing how the well, septic, road, parking, driveway connections were coming into the development, along with the stormwater runoff, and just the more complexity of coordinating with the environmental scientists to show how this body of water is an old mining pit. And that was a really big thing to prove and show all the different ways that we're adding to this mining pit versus considering it some sort of special water surface from that standpoint. Otherwise, it's very straightforward. The pictures do 1,000 words as far as the layout. And with that note, I'll step back. If you have any questions later on, I'm happy to answer those. And then the developer is here as well to talk about their presentation.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'll get through this quickly. I know we're all tired. You've seen the lake, obviously. And I just want to thank God, the quarry designer, Salmi family, the Glant family, the Carter family, the McGehee family, the Argos Corporation, John Baker III, Limestone Products, the City of Newberry staff, and the University of Florida. All of these people, God bless you. That's all right. All of these people contributed significantly to this project. It did take significantly longer to do than we thought, a whole extra year. There were complications concerning ownership over several different pieces of the property, which we had to fix, obviously. And the environmental report was lengthy, 273 pages. But you see the tax record there. We've now got the 60 acres plus the little piece we acquired from Limestone Products. And this is the site plan overview. You can see up in the northwest corner is the 10 acres we leased from Argos, and that's where I'm putting all the parking. Then we come into the property through the pipe stem, and as you can see, the zip lines are basically arranged around the water and over it. Certified, Florida's longest zip line, 1,303 feet. Entrance and stormwater management facility west, that's the far west side of the property. As you can see, it's got the little red thing around it. And basically, the reason we're doing this is to move the entrance of the park from where it would have naturally come out directly opposite the Argos entrance down so that we don't get that traffic conflated. That's the stormwater management facility, you know, the symbol for it. That's the actual engineering, Chris's work. This is the next section of the road, which is where we put the parking and the next stormwater management facility. The only thing I want to mention here is that we did narrow the road a little bit. It's 20 feet instead of 24, which you expect, say, in an industrial or residential. But since this is an agriculture or recreational use, I don't want to look like a super highway going through the park. However, we did want the parking spaces to be adequate for families and groups. So they're larger, they're wider, they're 11 feet wide, and they're longer. So people can pull in, unload, and do everything, but we still have a nice road. A little trick for you there in the future if you're ever wondering about how to do that. Stormwater management facility northeast, that's the one right there in the main field. As you can see, it's very, very shallow. Those are the paths. They're less than 10 feet wide, mulched. That's how people will travel around in the park. Parking and access for emergency vehicles. So obviously you see all the parking up top. There is handicap parking right next to the Welcome Center. And down there in the corner, it's hard to see there because of the numbers in the way. There is a helicopter landing zone as required by the fire department. That's the parking detail I was telling you about how deep they are. And on the other side of the parking, you'll see the mulched pedestrian trail. So the idea is they get out of the cars, they've got that little green space in between to travel onto the mulch trail and then over. Accessible parking and fire truck turnaround. Same thing, the blue there is the accessible and the fire truck turnaround is, here's the detail on that. I've got it here. So you can see the truck pulls in and can back out. That's the landing zone. And that's the whole picture. I'll take you through well, let me back up. The Welcome Center, 864 square feet, very, very small. Less than 200 feet of trenching to put the well and the septic field in. Very, very minimal disruption to the site. The parking was moved all the way over there, and everything was done to do as little disruption to the site as possible, leave it in as natural state as possible. That's the rendering for the Welcome Center. You can see we picked up the tree motif in the steel holding up the roof, which I really like. That's Jennifer Langford, really nice. Same thing here. You can see the tree detail in the steel. That's her actual drawing of it. Same thing. And this is a clever thing here. So what we've got is a building that was a classroom, a 24 by 36 steel classroom, and we're reusing it. And you'll never know that by looking at it. You'll say, wow, I think it looks like a, and that's the actual floor plan for that 24 by 36 building. It's going to have 2 accessible bathrooms in it, an office, and the rest of the area will just be the main area where you come in and get your harness, learn how to zip, you know. Typical trail system, just showing you the pathways. That's the water landing. So when they come in over the water and you land, then you're on a little moving, not a moving, sorry, a dock that takes you back to land. I'm working on a moving sidewalk, so I apologize for mixing that up. Floating dock to land transition. It'll be very beautiful out there. Little detail about our land clearing, just basically that we're attempting to preserve all of the important trees. And we are going to obviously chop up a lot of the little ones and chip them up and make them into trails. And that's about it. I did have a long section in here about what happened on the site environmentally, because there was a real debate about this surface boundary and the buffers. And I'm going to cut to the end here and show you what the county did in between this last hearing. So this is the full environmental report. This is 273 pages. It took Pete Wallace 9 months. It was a tremendous work. It has a huge amount of data in it. The most important thing, though, is the conclusion, in my opinion, that the highest and best environmental use of the project site is the zipline park. And as you can see, there's thousands of data points. These were hand and foot located. So if you blow that up, what you see there is all of those data points for this site were all hand located. This was a gigantic job. Finally, of course, the county stepped in. They asserted their authority through Chapter 77 and 78. And the conclusion of this was that in consideration for the project site design and project environmental review activities, all requirements stated within these provisions have been addressed and achieved. This was not easy to do, I will tell you. And the reason for that is, I'll be really candid with you, the law is conflicting on this issue. So your LDRs and the Gainesville and the county, and I would hesitate to have ever said this before, but they have, my report, essentially this report, highlighted the fact that this use, the reuse of this is not contemplated in the law. And to me, that's a problem because there's more quarries. You guys have a lot of work to do. So there was a surface water impact discussion. This took a whole year. There was all kind of back and forth. And I want to get to what the county did. We requested an exemption. And You can't see it here, that's a shame. But the bottom line is, it's approved. They granted it, and they were very good about it. If you were to read this in detail, they not only tell us that we passed all the environmental and that we're exempt, that we self-certify from this point forward, but they admit that the code needs to be cleaned up and improved and the definitions made better. So this will, I believe, make it easier for developers in the future to do what I did here, which is take a brownfield and restore it. This was the first one through the county, and so obviously it took a long time. But who can zip? It's time to go. So after the vote tonight, which hopefully will be a positive one, we have just Swanee River left, and then we're on to construction permit. I have any questions?
We are still in the quasi judicial, so we may have questions. But in our procedure, we need to hear from staff next. So sit tight. We're going to work through this as fast as possible. I could have told you that was highest and best use 9 months ago, but I don't get a vote, so go ahead.
Thank you. I'm getting my presentation loaded. I think Carl Spain did a great job at giving a succinct presentation on the zip line. I'm back live. So some historical images of the property showing the land as they began the mining operation. This is 1974, getting into the lime rock. And this is the master site plan, which, again, Carl has gone into great detail over, so I will not repeat what he has already said. And this is the Welcome Center, where they'll do the educational, architectural elevations. This is the rendering of that building as it's expected to be completed. In the site plan and development review, there are criteria established in the code. We went through them, and this site plan petition has satisfied all of those. So with that, we do believe that this petition is worth recommending approval for. There are some conditions attached to this one of which Carl has explained has already been achieved. We believe they are evidence of complying with the special exception approval that was adopted last year, obtaining that letter of acknowledgement from Alachua County Environmental Protection Department, and maintain a lease for the parking unless otherwise provided by on lands owned by the Zipline Park owner. With that, staff recommends approval of this resolution, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you, sir. That moves us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, we will go down to applicant. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Did you hear anything you want to question? Staff, did you hear anything you want to question? Okay, that kind of take us 2 members of the decision-making body through the chair. You can ask any questions of the applicant or staff. Commissioner Mazon.
Yes, I have 2. So, hey, how long are the paths again? The walk paths, how long are they?
They can be no wider than 10 feet, or else.
No, the distance.
Oh, how many feet?
Yeah.
Oh, good grief, there's, I think 11,000 linear feet of path, so more than, a little less than 2 miles.
And the welcoming center, will you have retail in it?
No.
Nothing?
Well,
I zipped the quarry.
we've talked about this.
Indian heads?
We don't really.
Arrowhead?
The problem is I didn't want to have any cash on site, because people reserve for this in advance, and so that may happen eventually, some tiny little thing like that event. But right now in the opening, I would really like to not have cash there. And these people have already paid. They show up, they go. My guides are there. We're not handling with that, and that would have an employee there to have a register, and I just don't need it.
Okay, other questions? Commissioner Martin.
Mr. Spain, is there any consideration for connection to Gatorback over there, given the amounts of people that are over there? Number one, is the Welcome Center, does it have a handicap ramp to it?
Yes,
Or
it
is
does.
there-
It's not shown in the rendering. That was an error by the artist who did the rendering. But the architect who actually designed it, Jennifer, is obviously aware of that rule and did design that in. It just, the rendering artist missed it. Good eye. Now, what was your first question? I'm sorry. Oh, the Gatorback?
Do you have any consideration for connection over to Gatorback at all?
My original plan was bigger, involved more property. And the problem is that by law, if I own or involved in or have other property that's adjacent to this, that's involved in the plan, all of that has to be revealed to you and be part of this as a disclosure, so to speak. It's kind of a thing where they try to prevent developers from doing phasing. So the answer is that when I realized that adding that acreage would push me into another category where I would have to actually put up with even more review than this, I decided to back off from that. And so I think that in the future, this area of Newberry, there's going to be a lot of development in this recreation vein. And I'm really looking forward to working with the landowners around me to do that. But I feel that it's going to have to happen one owner or one piece of property or one idea at a time, just because of the nature of the way the development process is structured.
Other questions? Mr. Fain, in your original presentation, one of the zip lines was going to be handicap accessible. Did that make it through this process?
And it's still named Jordan's Jamboree, although I know somebody made the reference to Mayor Jordan. Actually, Casey's son passed when he was 4, and his name was Jordan. And this is a ride in his honor. And it most certainly is still in the plan. And I've actually had to go to quite a bit of trouble to make that happen because of basically the way the water rules work. As you know, this entire site was very impacted by that. And again, if you form some sort of committee or do something to like negotiate with the county over these points, how to take these brownfields, these quarries, these, because you've got both limestone and other brownfield things that by cleaning up your LDR, you'd make it a lot easier for that property to be redeveloped, reused, and done in the future. I think the city has a great future. And I agree with you. I think the county is coming around to that point of view and wants to help you do that. So you and the county together could do great things.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Maison.
So was it difficult to have the handicap accessory zip line?
The problem is that all the other zip lines will have a mulched trail to them. And mulched trail doesn't generate any what's called impervious surface. So if I want to wheel somebody in a wheelchair up to that one, however, now I've got to create a long impervious surface, and I have to have stormwater management for that. And you see, it gets absurd when you're doing stormwater management for a trail to a zip line thing over a quarry that's a brownfield. You see, and so I don't want to. I don't, because really, I mean, what we do is wonderful. It's a great job and it's wonderful. And, but it does, when you get down into these arcane little details that prevent you from doing something that you obviously think is the right and correct thing to do, it is frustrating.
Well, I'm glad to hear that still in. Ma'am, I'm so sorry you had to go through that tragedy. Did you want to make any final arguments?
Just that I love doing development in the city of Newberry. You're the staff here. I mean, I know I've heard some things tonight even, but I think you have wonderful staff. I think they care about the city, and I think they really work hard, and they have, and I think you have great elected officials. I mean, the city is wonderful for this. A lot of the problems I hear tonight, I've heard all my life, standing in front of these podiums. You know, the concurrency issue, which is the same thing as adequate public facilities, the frustration with people over roads and stuff like that. I think you're doing the right thing, and I think that your quality of life in this town will show it.
Well, we appreciate those kind words. Staff, did you want to make a final argument? All right. Madam Attorney, would you advise decision-making body one last time tonight?
You'll need competent, substantial evidence for any findings.
Thank you. We'll enter into deliberations. There are no deliberations. I'll have a motion. No deliberation. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison, a second from Commissioner Martin. Comments, questions on the motion on the floor of the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously, and I've rethought having the contest with the nun. I think she might have a little bit more pull with the man upstairs, but the next person I will absolutely challenge, and that's going to any topics for members' discussion here tonight. Well, we are adjourned. Don't go anywhere. We still got. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call this Community Redevelopment Agency Board to order. Is it your time to go to the bathroom this time? All right. I'll start with a motion to recommend approval of the agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions, motion on the floor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Staff is requesting that the second item, the infrastructure, potential infrastructure list, be postponed to the next CRA meeting.
That's item 3? Second item number 3. Okay. So with that amendment, pulling item 3, I don't think you'll have any problems pulling anything off tonight's agenda. Do you still make your motion, Commissioner Maison? Was it Commissioner Maison? Commissioner Barden? Was that? All right. Commissioner Martin modifies his motion to approve pulling item 3 off. Commissioner Clark, do you modify your second to pull item 3?
My second to pull number 3 strike.
All right, perfect. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? So moved. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our one item all night, which is approval of Newberry facade grant program. Madam Attorney, would you please read resolution CRA 2023-02 into the record?
This is a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting a facade grant program, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the facade grant program that we discussed previously. It's been finalized in form of a resolution for the CRA board to approve. Again, just running through these quickly, you've already seen much of this. Purpose of the Community Redevelopment Agency is the basically the elimination of blight and the redevelopment of the urbanized area to increase the property values within the CRA district. Program is designed to incentivize brick and mortar businesses, so no home-based businesses, but actual businesses with a commercial location within the CRA district to revitalize their buildings. It will be evaluated, each applicant would be evaluated based on 3 criteria. We'll have the effect on economic development, general commercial aesthetic and streetscaping, so the appearance improvements, and then whether or not it's contributes to historic preservation of historic structures within the CRA district and the commercial structures. There's the list of eligibility requirements, kind of the obvious stuff. It's got to be a business within the district, have to have a current business tax receipt, et cetera, those kind of things. No past due bills with the city. Building has to be privately owned, actively operating, has to be a legally constituted business, of course, and get permission from the property owner if it's the business is not owned by the property owner. And the grant could be for an application from the property owner or the tenant, whichever. So the general outline, anywhere from a $500 to a $5,000 grant can be awarded. So you'd have a maximum of $5,000, so that means that the total project cost would be $10,000 or more. It is a rebate, and so the the facade improvements have to be complete, and they have to show proof that all of the contractors or subcontractors, anybody who's been hired in relation has been paid. And then once that's done, then they qualify for the refund. That way there's no lingering bills sitting out there. Funded annually, of course, by the CRA board, which is you. Right now we have $15,500 in the budget for the facade grant. I've talked to a couple of business owners who've suggested that may not be enough first year because there's a lot of interest in it. So some examples of qualifying projects and non-qualifying projects, or costs, I should say. And then some examples of eligible projects and ineligible projects. Past my bedtime. Kept me up late tonight. And I threw in a couple of examples to kind of give you some idea of some of the impacts. And so, you know, the one on the left is before, the one on the right is the after. This is a fairly small-scale project, and I put these in there because I was able to find some that actually listed out their costs. So, for instance, this one, just to do the roof soffits, paint, awning, that kind of thing, improve the parking lot, you know, was almost $16,000. And so the TIF funds invested from the CRA, and this was down in the Tampa area, was $79.55. They have a little higher limit, obviously, than we're proposing here. But then something more substantial like this, you know, you had a $165,000 project. They went up to $50,000 on that. Now, the CRA has been gathering money for a long time, and so it has a lot of money in the TIF fund, so they can do that kind of an investment. But just as the CRA continues to grow down the road, the board might want to consider upping the limits, that kind of thing. We'll see how it goes initially and report back. And so the recommended motion is to approve the Newberry CRA facade grant program. And next steps, if that occurs, if the board approves it, then next step, staff's putting out flyers to all of the brick and mortar businesses up and down both corridors. And we'll send it out email blast. We'll put it on social media, on the website, pretty much every avenue we have to get the word out and see how much response we get.
Questions from the commission? Commissioner Martin.
If there, in fact, is an actual demand that exceeds the 15.5, how quickly could we entertain increasing that, and what would it necessarily take to do so?
Mr. Chair, the board could entertain that at the very next meeting. You could call a meeting at any time the board so chooses, and make that request to increase it.
Well, keep us updated on that.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I have a similar thought because I think that when that flyer goes out, there's going to be, I've already had about 4 or 5 of the businesses downtown contact me, and I think there's going to be a rush. So let's see if it happens. Yeah, when they actually put in the application, if they put in the application and the CRA board has only funded it, were they bound by the $5,000, or can they increase both the amount of the applicants and the amount that each applicant can go after?
Currently, Mr. Chair, there's no provision for that, but it would be a fairly simple matter to add that.
Okay. So we could increase it where each person could get 7. I mean, a couple of the comments I've had is that the kinds of projects that they're looking at doing, you know, 5,000 is nice, it's helpful, but it's not the incentive to, oh, let me go ahead and pressure wash and change my awning and do everything. I'm going to shell out 25,000 and, you know, I get 5,000 back. So I'd like a little bit of, you know, ask those kinds of questions too, and then come back and give the CRA some feedback. Commissioner Martin?
It might be interesting if there is an easy way to maybe even facilitate partnering where, you know, maybe there's some economies of scale where a contractor could come in and do multiple at the same time and get a little bit more bang for the buck because they're already on site, so to speak. And if we can have that information for the businesses available when we're actually handing this out, I know that gives you an extra step, but we're here to serve.
And to your point, Mr. Chair, I mean, it is possible that the $5,000 limitation would limit the scope of the project they would like to do if they knew that there was a potential that there was more money available for a larger scale project, then perhaps they would do more of a thorough facelift.
Yeah. Commissioner Clark,
So, how much money is in there
15.5.
total?
So far this year, yes,
That's
sir.
what you guys budgeted, not what's in the CRA. That's what you guys budgeted for the facade.
But also too, that was prior to us finding out that
You
we were
have more
going to
money.
have more money.
Right.
So,
What's in the CRA is my question. Could we up this considerably quickly?
Mr. Chair,
If
we
there
have
was,
approximately 320,000 and change.
Yeah.
so the second part of that, Brian, would be
Yes, sir.
this then. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, but also too,
We have
the
other
board has
programs.
mentioned that they have other programming that they'd like to,
I understand, but
so,
we gotta get out of the block, get out of the gate here with something downtown that would be nice. So my second, so I know there's plenty of money to up this and to add even a higher cost, so that's what this for payback. And as Commissioner Martin said, as I walk down the downtown area, and I've mentioned this before, and I've probably mentioned you, as I look up going to breakfast, our downtown is eroding at the top. If these people don't do something, we ain't gonna have a need for facades, because the bricks are gonna fall out and tear them down. And I just mean that seriously. The grass, the trees, we get rain, in the winters they freeze. It just seems to be coming apart at the seams. So anything we can do, if there's money to help them do this, I think it would be a well-spent dollar. That's all I got.
I think that, and we haven't really talked a lot about this, but, you know, when we were trying to work on the CRA, I know we have a lot of infrastructure things that we want to do, but our downtown appeal and the way it looks, I think is the most immediate and visible. And, I mean, I appreciate the 15.5 that we put in there when we thought that we would only have 100,000, and we were kind of looking at it, at how do we move forward on 2 or 3 things. But, you know, as I talk to those 4 or 5 business owners, you know, it really is how much help can they get to incentivize them to stroke the check for 15,000? Well, if they're going to get 8 to 10 in help, now they can do a big project. 5 really didn't seem to. It was like, oh, that's a great program. Oh, $5 grand. I mean, you know, it's going to cost me 25 or 30 to do this. So,
Mr. Chair, the board's within its rights to make those amendments to the resolution right now.
well, let's
And
get the
so-
flyer out. I think let's get some hard applications in, and then come back with. We can do this pretty quickly, right? Yeah, and if they, and we'll talk to the businesses and say, you know, tell Brian, right? Talk to him. If it's about money, then it's about money. Let's come back and we'll keep talking about it, you know. But I want to see new awnings. I want to see pressure washing. I want to see that, and I want to see it now, you know. So we got to incentivize people to get that out.
Pressure washing.
Not on brick.
You up tear it down.
Now, we'll get I'm so sorry. We will get the experts to tell us how we get the trees that are growing out of the top of the buildings out of there.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but I think it needs to be cleaned up, painted. I tell everybody 1906 was a blessing. Jamie came in there and what he did with that building, he had the pockets to be able to do it. But those folks are few and far between that are willing to go through the historic regulations and do all that work. So I think the message is let's move, let's approve this, get that flyer out, let's see what the feedback is, and then if we need to up it, sounds to me like we're willing to. Mike, you got it? No, I thought you were reaching. All right, I need a motion on the floor. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor. Ms. Peggy, you want to tell us not to pressure wash?
Listen, you won't send me to school.
That's true.
And the number one thing you never do.
Don't
is
pressure wash.
brick.
And here the mayor's talking about pressure washing.
Destroy the integrity of the brick. Maybe you should went to that school.
I'll get up there. We have a soft wash expert here. I'll get up there with a toothbrush.
Put a little chlorine on it.
All right. No public comment. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. Motion passes unanimously. Any topics of conversation? I'm gonna hit you with this. No topics. We are adjourned.